Hello. Yes, Corey, it is a YouTube live stream this time. I was in the mood for it. How goes it? Sorry for the delay. I had trick-or-treaters come by as soon as I sat down to start streaming, so... I figured that they got priority over you. My apologies. But they're little ones. They want candy. Tonight's the only night that I'm going to be giving it out, so... I figured I'd appease them. But how goes it? Am I really not signed in on chat on my own OBS? How dare. This is what happens when I don't stream on YouTube for like 4 months. Hello, everyone. Man, it's so weird streaming on YouTube because it's so different from Twitch, but I have my preferences, which is why I've been streaming on one, not the other. But yeah, happy Halloween, everyone. Unless it's no longer Halloween, in which case, my apologies that you don't live in my neck of the woods. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I spent like all afternoon just being like, hey, what if I put in more effort than it deserved for this? And I made like an outfit for Halloween. I've got the whole like vampire get up. I mean, because think about it. What did I just make a video about? I just made a video about vampires. But furthermore, I gave myself some teeth. But yeah, I just figured it would be fun to make a new outfit. This is mostly pre-made, but I did change some of the colors. Unless... Oh no! Actually, for reasons that I'm mistaken, it did not save some of my changes. When was this? About 5 minutes ago. Let me actually do something real quick. My apologies. What I'm going to do, I'm going to close out of this. Slight changes, because this was actually version 1 of my model, of the new outfit. And this is not a new model, it's just a new outfit, so don't go crazy. So let me add this. Apologies for this quick delay. I have to get changed. Oh no. Let us see what is going on with this. Slight technical issues. Because I did a little bit more edits. Let us remove this one, add this one, and interesting, it doesn't appear to have loaded that. So I am just going to take, hello Kaza. We're running into slight technical difficulties, but nothing I can't handle because I'm a superstar. Let's double check if I screwed this up. Okay, so I think I might have just like screwed this up. But oh well, it gets the point across. I had some slightly different, actually, if I do... Okay. Yep, so unfortunately, let me just... My apologies, folks. So initially, I had contacts in, which made my eyes look different. Although the eyes seem to have gone in. I also changed the color scheme so that the reds on my outfit were gold because I felt that fit my color scheme better. But I still think it looks quite nice, even if it didn't manage to stay all the way through. But yes, happy Halloween, everyone. What? Kaza? Hi. Oh no, why did you leave a review with a typo, Kaza? Why is that? I figured I'd get all dressed up for Halloween because what other time of year do I have the opportunity to do that? I even have like insert vampire teeth Ah. But yeah, I figured this would be a fun little thing to do. I can play some horror-themed games, Halloween-themed games, do some Edgar Allan Poe reading, and get all dressed up. Thank you. Again, unfortunately, I did like change the color of this gem, and like my inside of my cape, I made gold, not red, but I think that this still looks good. Like, you can even see that I have like contacts in. They look different. Although, funny enough, this hairstyle is actually how I tend to wear my hair normally. Normally when I'm streaming, I have the little like coif in front and then the rest of it's up in a ponytail. Normally when I'm just living my daily life, like not streaming, I let my hair down, I let it cover like this exact eye actually, so you're getting inner secrets to what I truly look like. But yeah, happy Halloween to everyone if you're still in a time zone where Halloween is a thing. What's going on with you? I don't think that there's anyone here who hasn't at least checked out my Twitch stream, so it's not like anyone's seeing me for the first time in a while, but always fun to swap over to YouTube every once in a while. And as I do that, I'm going to load up the game. I have 2 games on the agenda, neither of which should take longer than an hour. So if I load this up, go to you, I click on game capture for this. Oh, this is a little bit loud, unfortunately. So let me just... I know you can't hear it, which is good because it's a little bit too loud. Okay, fixing that. Issue is that YouTube's a little weird with streaming. It's so annoying. Oh, I'm glad you've been playing games at least. Yeah, I personally have a preference for Twitch based off what I found. Let me just, before I subject you to this, turn down music. Sound, voice, and go on over to main screen. Yeah, streaming on YouTube is a little weird. It's a little different. I'm not anti YouTube stream. However, I am more comfortable on Twitch at this point, particularly with stuff like bits and integrations and channel points. But I was just in a YouTube mood, and what's scarier than change? So, but for now, I was thinking I could play a game called Graveyard Girls, which is a visual novel about dealing with grief. It is like Yuri, like queer romance, but also Halloween themed. I have not listened to Vengeance Saga. Funny enough, I was busy last night chatting with some folks, and then today I was putting together this outfit, which evidently I messed up because I didn't save the changes to the colors, but I got everything else done, which I'm quite happy with this little outfit. Maybe I'll wear it on occasion. I see it definitely as a costume, though. See that? So no, I've not listened to Vengeance Saga. Listen, like even with Wisdom Saga, it took me like a couple days to listen to it after it came out. Like, I enjoy Epic. I'm not like an Epic rabid fan, particularly after how Wisdom Saga ended. I wasn't a huge fan of that, so I'm excited to see where Vengeance Saga goes, particularly because I think that this one has dangerous, hold on, get in the water, and I'm assuming at least one other. No, it's all right. Well, I'm glad I got the Kaza seal of approval. Because, as we all know, Kaza, as a simp, is very acute at figuring out what is and is not acceptable. Whether or not they act upon that, another matter entirely, but... Oh, awesome. 600 strike. Of course, Kaza. Yeah, you keep saying that. However, I think I'm going to start this up unless anyone else has any other things they want to bring up. Like, has anyone done anything for Halloween? Has anyone outside of listening to the Vengeance Saga done anything like special? Because for instance, I was just like, okay, I'm going to go downstairs. I'm going to make some food. I have a bowl of candy in case anyone trick-or-treats. And then I actually had way more trick-or-treaters than I expected come by as I'm like just preparing food. So I had an hour of like door duty. But that was the extent of like the excitement for my Halloween. Oh, it's the name of the song I missed. I'm assuming 600 Strike is the opening song and then Dangerous follows that, is my guess. Because the only thing I know is Dangerous probably leads into Holding On, and Holding On definitely leads into Get in the Water. And I'm assuming Get in the Water is the closer. So I'm assuming that the fourth song is either before Dangerous or right after Dangerous. But in any case. Oh, wait, I forgot. I have to... Oh. It's actually really... YouTube chat. And I have to... Oh, I remember how YouTube works now. I have to pop out the chat. My apologies. Do that. Now, boom. YouTube chat. My apologies. I forgot about that. Oh, 600 Strike is the closer. Interesting. I assumed Get in the Water would be the closer. Because, like, that's even what the teaser trailer was, like, set to, was Get in the Water. Yeah, so definitely, I'm probably going to listen to the Vengeance Saga in the next day or two. But at least for now, I have other stuff to do, unfortunately. Although I could listen to it right now and just, like, give you the AE treatment of just, like, oh yeah, this is awesome. Both kind of goofy and really cool. Or do you mean 600 Strike or the entire Vengeance Saga? I'll listen. Yes, I will listen. Don't you worry. Did I hear Vengeance Saga? Yes, you did, Redheaded. Welcome on in. I have yet to listen to Vengeance Saga. So as someone who really enjoys Epic, but was a bit disappointed by the ending of Wisdom Saga, how worth it is Vengeance Saga? Because also, for instance, going into the Wisdom Saga, I didn't know like really any of the songs going into it, but I know most of the Vengeance Saga songs. Yes, we love it when folks get summoned. Oh, I forgot. Someone reached out to me, like someone who's a part of another channel, and they're like, hey, we want to like put on a podcast. Would you be interested in talking about world building? I'm like, yeah, like sure, I'll participate. I don't think I can hop on for a call, but I can probably give you some notes. And they're like, awesome. If you can just give that to me in like the next like 2 weeks, that'd be awesome. It's been a week and a half and I've not gotten them their notes. What did I dislike about Wisdom? Primarily the thing I disliked about the Wisdom Saga is, let's see if MS Paint is going to want to work. Just a quick little aside, because we love MS Paint in this house. I don't think it is working, unfortunately. Yeah. You really like the Wisdom Saga, so you can't really say much for those who didn't like it as much. I mean, yeah, Kaza, that's to be expected. AE, I look at AE and I say, ha, gay boy, and then, like, that's it. But the thing I didn't like about the Wisdom Saga, and, oh, it popped up, nice. Based. The thing I did not like about, Wisdom Saga is because, one, it was expectation. So I went into it expecting it to be more about, like, I didn't expect the hard pivot to this is the story of Telemachus and Athena. I was expecting it to be about Odysseus. So I was expecting dangerous, holding on, maybe even get in the water. So that was just a bit of an expectation thing. That is like not the fault of the show. That is the fault of me for going into it and expecting the wrong things. But then also, like, this is something AE has said, and I agree, is that like Legendary and like Little Wolf and Will Be Fine feels like one song. It feels like one like 8-minute song that has like slight transitional periods that are each like 10 seconds or less. But the ending of Little Wolf, or the ending of Legendary, goes right into Little Wolf. The ending of Little Wolf goes right into Will Be Fine, which you think, oh, that's really good for storytelling, because then that means that there's constantly forward momentum. It's like almost like the Hamilton approach. But the issue is the entirety of Act 1 has this sort of delineation between we start with this song and we pause. We go with this song, then we pause. Even something like Polyphemus into Survive or Survive into Remember Them, those have, okay, here's the action. Here is a definitive song break because this is where the song is closing out. Here is a continuation in the next one. So even though the DNA is there from Polyphemus to Survive, from Survive to Remember Them, they are all distinct songs. I can listen to Survive by itself and be fine. But if I listen to Little Wolf, I'll feel like I'm listening to like half a song, you know? And then on top of that, God Games is, personally speaking, my least favorite song of the Wisdom Saga. And I would say it's in like probably bottom 5 of the entirety overall, which sucks because the individual segments I really enjoy. I really love the musicality of basically all of the individual gods and how they interact with Athena. The issue is it's rushed. Like, and the thing about that is Apollo and Hephaestus, their sections are both incredibly quick. It is, hey, here's my singular point and my argument. Athena says, no, you. And then they say, oh, okay. And like Apollo doesn't even make sense. He just talks about the sirens and they're singing. And then Athena says, well, yeah, he just killed them, but they deserved it. And then Apollo says, okay, if you say so. So that's something where like I would have expected Apollo to harp more on the like the killing of the cows, and then Athena says, well, that wasn't him, that was his men. And then Apollo is just like, well, they were still under his command. And then Athena says, well, actually, he was mutinied right beforehand, and he tried to stop them. And then Apollo could say, oh, okay, I understand, release him. Same outcome, even like same amount of lines. Maybe if it was literally just like one extra setup response of like Apollo gets 2 extra lines, Athena gets 2 extra lines, just like the content being different. So like Apollo, Hephaestus, the fact that Aphrodite and Ares had like a duo, I actually really liked. And I like the fact that Aphrodite argues with Athena, and I like the fact that Ares is like bringing up valid points of like, hey, I'm the god of war, and he didn't even try and fight Scylla. He hides in a horse instead of going out and fighting in the front lines. He's a coward. This is like one of my favorite sections. Hera, similarly, despite the fact that it's like super short, the fact it's so short is rule of funny, right? Because it's Hera is, oh, you think Hera's going to be super hard to convince, but actually it's just with one line, he never cheated on his wife, boom, release him. That's the joke. And then the big elephant in the room for me is Zeus. Zeus is just completely ugh, in this song. I'm not even going to say it's out of character, but there's no build up to it. He goes from, hey, play my game to, oh, you played my game, let me yell at you, and then we're gonna have an instrumental for like a full 60 seconds, which in a musical usually is atypical because normally you're gonna have vocals. To me, the ending of God Games is its weakest point, and the fact that it goes full instrumental and like there's like a full like minute plus of animatics demonstrated to me that was less I want to make this a good song for the medium of musical storytelling, and more I want to tell a cool story where he like Aranz like kills Athena, even though I don't think anyone thinks Athena is actually dead because that's silly. But that's just like I have a lot of issues with God Games. God Games is very much like average is like out of like a 1 to 10, it's like a 3 for me. But that's because it has like parts which are like 8 or 9 and parts which are like 1 or 2. You know? See, you don't really have the same issue because there's enough pause for me to see them as different songs. And I agree. I don't think that they're like the rest of the song, like Legendary Little Wolf, like I don't think they're ruined or anything. I just think it's the same two characters basically having the same extended conversation, because I'm counting Athena as being a part of Legendary, because even though she isn't speaking with Telemachus, she's listening. That's like implied with the piano motif. And it's not that there's anything wrong with how it was presented. I personally just feel like it all could have been one giant song, or even one song that was half the length, and it would have accomplished the exact same thing from a storytelling perspective. And from a musical perspective, they're all so I'm not going to say similar, because that's just the means by which Aranz uses instrumentation to show character. Like, it shows Athena, it shows Telemachus. Of course, they're going to sound similar because it's two characters that have instruments. But like Legendary into Little Wolf, Little Wolf is almost like just a more intense section of Legendary, and Will Be Fine is almost more like a more calm reprieve section of Legendary. That's what I'm getting at. You do feel like God Games is rushed the more you think about it. I just figured they didn't have as much in stake, so they didn't care. I mean, and that's the thing, is that if it was, hey, none of the gods care, and that's the point, then I'd be chill with that. But the issue is, the animatic shows it like, oh, they have like a full minute-long introduction series. They're in this planetary arena in the sky, and they're all introduced on pillars to a giant adoring crowd. That's when you have stakes. That's when you show it means something. If it was just, hey, go convince them, then it would be like the pre-Wisdom Saga animatics, where it's just Athena's going to them, having a quick conversation, and then leaving. Which I think, if they kept it as is, if it was like Athena running around and being like, hey, just wanted to talk to you about this, Apollo's like, I don't care, and Athena's like, awesome, cool, and then goes to Hephaestus, and Hephaestus is like, oh, I don't care, and then cool, like, that could have worked, but that's not how it was presented, and I have to take the song with the animatics, not just because that's how it's presented in the official live stream, but also because when listening, like, God Games was made with like a minute-long animatic at its end in mind. And that rubs me the wrong way for a musical, just personally. Wait, so the Hephaestus is specifically bad because they put the Scylla theme there to completely ignore he straight sacked 6 guys. I actually don't dislike the Hephaestus one. The one that I have the biggest issue with, Zeus, I think, doesn't necessarily act out of character, but there's no build-up to him, like, raging. It just goes from play my game to you played my game, now let me throw lightning at you, which is dumb. To me, at least. Apollo, I think, was acting, like, out of character and not really making a solid argument. I like the fact that Hephaestus was like, trust is not given, it's forged. Why should I give him my support when he sacrificed his own cohort? Because that's like just, he's all about forging bonds. He's all about making things. He's all about cohesion. And Odysseus broke that. But that's a situation where I think Athena should have brought up to Hephaestus, Odysseus came up with the Trojan horse. Odysseus is clever. Odysseus is smart and can make stuff and is a craftsman. And I do like that she responded to a specific point where like, oh, they failed to listen. But I think that would have been a better argument for Apollo to give to Apollo. Because Apollo says, hey, he ate the cows. And then she says, they weren't listening to him. They mutinied. He wasn't in control of them. And then Hephaestus says, well, like, he sacrificed his guys. He doesn't take care of them. He doesn't trust people. And then Athena can say like, well, he might not be able to trust people, but he can make things. He's a good leader. He can guide them, and kind of presents it from that angle. And this is a little bit of like headcanon arguing with canon, which I don't know how productive that is. My biggest issue with God games is the Zeus bit. Like, even if it was exactly the same up until that last like minute, and they just pared down that minute to like 15 seconds, I think I would like God games way more. No, and Kaza, that's a great point. Hera also has a back and forth, despite the fact she is super quick, just like, oh, he never cheated on his wife, go. Hera's voice alone is enough for me with anything that happens. No, and that's like, that's why I really like the Aphrodite Ares section. I really like the Hera section. I like the music of the Apollo and the Hephaestus section. I don't like the actual storytelling and context surrounding it. With Zeus, it's just like, ugh, you know? Sounds like a boss battle, but it wasn't, basically. Exactly, and that's what Erans was presenting it as. He's saying, this is a boss battle. This is Athena fighting the other gods musically. But really, it was just a couple arguments. I feel like the Aphrodite Ares bit was a boss battle. And then Hera was kind of like the joke secondary boss, where it's just like, you think it's going to be super tough, but it's actually super easy, and that's like comedic relief, catharsis. You think one of the bigger misconceptions is that God of the Sun reference isn't Apollo, it's Helios. That's what I meant when Apollo doesn't have much of a stake in it. So that's the issue, is Erans has referenced both. Erans has said both Helios and Apollo in his TikToks over the course of the past like 2 years. So it may have been, it started as Apollo and then he changed it to Helios, and then he kept Apollo in God games despite changing the cattle to Helios, because in like the original myth, it is the cattle of Helios. Like that is the mythological route, the mythological route. However, over time, obviously, there's been a lot of conflation. Apollo with Helios, Artemis with Selene / Diana / whatever moon goddess there is. Like the sun hunter and the moon hunter, basically. They each have their mixing. And then there were segments where what's it called? Erans was posting a TikTok, and I think like because what he did for TikTok, he would post like a 30-second snippet to TikTok like 2 years before Epic was even released, because he was just working on it at the point. And it was like for Mutiny, he was saying that they were like on the Isle of Helios with Helios's cows. But something else to mention is they never specify that in the musical. They only ever say this is the island of the sun god, which again, Apollo has been conflated with the sun over time. So given that they never mention Helios whatsoever in the musical, and then they have Apollo be in God games, I'm not even saying that like Erans like misled anyone. It's just there's the ambiguity there that could confuse someone. Because for instance, I was thinking like it's the cattle of Helios. He mentions Helios like 2 years ago, but then he has not mentioned Helios since, and has only talked about Apollo. Even if he's not saying, oh, these are Apollo's cattle, these are Helios's cattle, it's very easy to be like, okay, well, Helios is a titan, not a god. Helios is the literal sun, where Apollo kind of has like sun-adjacent mythology, and sometimes is conflated with it. So maybe Erans just took Apollo and put him in the place of Helios, because in a musical, in a play, you want to cut down on however many characters you have, just for the sake of simplicity and ease of accessibility. So maybe that was just a me thing, But I think that even if it was Apollo being like, hey, you killed the cows, that's my buddy Helios. Like, why'd you kill his cows? That would have worked because they're both like sun adjacent. Or maybe not. But yeah, I just was not too interested in Epic after the Wisdom Saga. I have high hopes for the Vengeance Saga though. So but now that I've gone a full like half hour of rambling, let's properly play this visual novel. So there should be no music at this point, but when it comes back, let me know how sound is. So Graveyard Girls depicts the complicated and traumatic aftermath of losing a parent during your young adulthood. This topic has been addressed as authentically as possible. If you're struggling with grief, you may not have a safe experience playing this game. Content warning: Graveyard Girls contains strong language, mature humor, drug abuse, self-harm, mentions of suicide, alcohol use, and sexual themes. Games intended is let me look something up real quick. Is Graveyard Girls stream safe? Just gonna double check this because I don't think it's not. Yeah, it's not like NSFW or anything. Okay, so the main stuff that YouTube would have a problem with is mentioned in dialogue but not depicted. I mean, probably AE. You think that you're allowed to have rights? Based on what you said, I think you would like the Vengeance Saga a lot. It focuses a lot more on dialogue between different characters, and each person gets their own sort of song. Yay! Get that out of here. Also, hello, AE. Welcome on in. Happy Halloween. We just wrapped up talking about the Wisdom Saga and how much I was complaining about it and how I have not listened to the Vengeance Saga yet. Hey, you don't deserve your rights. You're not a person. We established this on like our first collab. Also, hey, if you're not streaming tonight, feel free to hit me up on Discord. As I've mentioned before, I have an open door policy, so I'm going to be reading Edgar Allan Poe later. So if you want to hop in for a group read along, you did genuinely enjoy the Vengeance Saga, understood. Good reminder to swap to live chat. As opposed to top chat. Oh, that's a good point to bring up. Oh, okay. I didn't see your message because I was on top chat. Interesting. That's good to know, Kaza. Chat got so mad about your criticisms of the Wisdom Saga. Well, chat will get mad about everything because that's what people who are fans of something do. No. Traitor. You're definitely... Wait, what do you mean you're definitely totally kind of streaming tonight? Are you collabing with someone? I mean, I realized like yesterday, I was like, wait, it would have been perfect to set up like a group collab on Halloween. Oh, well. So now I'm just doing it by my lonesome. Would you like to continue? Yes. Well, enjoy your dinner, redheaded. So we unlock scribbles. They're available in the memory section of the main menu after unlocking. I imagine that's like scenes you can unlock. More like a cat is coming. All right, chat. What voice do we want for narrator Chan? DM'd me. Ah, understood. Well, apparently people already know. The leaves crunch beneath my feet as I make my way through the cemetery, counting each row that I pass. A frigid gust of wind catches my hair and blows it into my vision. I tuck it away carefully. I can't help but remember how he used to tease me about finding my long hair everywhere. He'd always tell me how beautiful it was. Aye. Well, hey, you also had a very bad September last year. You've not had good luck on Septembers these past couple years. So, I mean, I imagine that bleeds into October. Once I find the section I've been searching for, I let out a sigh. Although it's not of relief. The cold stone inscription stares back at me, expressionless. Jason Gray, beloved husband and father. As I read the name quietly to myself, I feel like he's greeted me in his own way. What am I supposed to say? Nothing seems quite right, so I settle on the simplest of phrases. Hi, Dad. I made it. I know it's been a while. In truth, it's been too long. The last time I visited, he didn't even have a headstone. I'm sorry. I should have come sooner. What am I thinking? Coming here isn't gonna help. As if talking to a polished rock is gonna bring back any kind of closure. I turned to leave, but there's a magnetism to this place. As if he'd reached out for my hand and said, "You're leaving already?" I gazed back at his headstone and whispered to myself, "You want me to stay? Fine." Oh, I thought you had problems. September 2023. Interesting. My lore is getting mixed up. Oh no. Yeah. Wait, are you accusing me of not watching your streams in your DMs? Tongues too loud? Thank you. That's exactly what I have you here for. Thank you, Kaza. Yeah, this is a pretty loud game. I even turned down the references. So hopefully... Oh, it was November. Understood. Yeah, so this is a pretty loud game. So just let me know. I turned it down a bit. Let me know if it's too loud still. My mom always insisted that I be careful not to stand on graves when visiting cemeteries. But that was out of respect for strangers. This is my dad's resting place. I'd sat on his lap 1,000 times before. What would he care if I rested on his grave now? I knew he wouldn't have minded. We have not formally planned or agreed to a collab of more than 2 streamers since the collab. It was such a mess. 2 of our folks got stuck in a blizzard. It was so scuffed. Yeah, I know you like serving, Kaza. Without another moment of hesitation, I brush away the leaves and sit back against his headstone. I lay my notebook across my thighs and settle into place. If I'm staying for a while, I'm getting comfy. I glimpse towards the late afternoon sun and pause to admire the golden glow of autumn. He loved this time of year. Is anyone here a fan of fall? Is anyone here an autumn enjoyer? Because I know a lot of people think like spring is a tacky answer, and a lot of people who like spring say summer. And I know a lot of people who aren't contrarians, but they like go against the grain and they say, oh yeah, I love winter. How many people love fall here? Hey, if you think I don't always have your stream on in the background at like 1% volume as I'm editing because you stream at the exact time that I am my most productive, you are an utter fool. I always have your stream on, you fool. Yes, hello, Kismet. We have a costume. Yes, for anyone who was not here earlier, I'm going to show off my costume some more because I spent like a lot of today working on it. It's basically just a pre-made, but I did some edits to it. I did like snatch the waist and whatever. And I also gave myself vampire teeth. Ah. Yeah. I don't know. It was fun making this. Yeah, so autumn's quite fun. Like it's cool enough that it's not too hot, but it's not freezing. it used to be the time, at least where I'm from, where it could snow as early as October. But, you know, times change. The vampire. Well, just because your birthday is in fall does not mean you have to be a fall enjoyer. Thank you. Oh, hey, question. Also the rest of my chat. Question. I have been told I am too cute to be a heel. Is this true? Is my ability to be a menace diminished by being cute? I disagree. I don't see myself as extremely cute or anything. I've had my ability to cause problems put into question by accusation that no one wants me to fail, and that means that I am not a good heel. Wait, hey, did I ask you last night? I can't remember. Thank you. Also, I don't even think that I'm like... I've been accused of cuteness. I execute people in my Discord server. You think it adds to it? Well, thank you. See, my chat gets it. My chat is like, hey, regardless of like how attractive or fun or cute or whatever you are, you can still be an absolute menace that we all hate. Thank you. Although, again, I disagree with the cute accusations. I'm not one to call myself cute. I know that a couple people in my community call me cute. That's because y'all are simps. Y'all call everyone cute. I know your game. I know your trick. Well, I'm guessing not much has changed with you. You'd appreciate that sarcasm. Dark humor was the thing. That's probably where I got it from. I'll just sit here and talk to myself. Like a crazy person. Like me. I take a deep breath in, but the crisp air won't soothe the ache in my lungs. Wait, what do you mean I can't deny the cute allegations? I have like a scuffed, disheveled model, even in this like full get up, this whole costume of like a vampire costume. Like I put in contacts and everything. Like, this is not cute. This is... Okay, the costume's kind of cute. I'm not gonna lie. However, my normal outfit and my normal appearance, nuh-uh. Why is cute the default compliment, actually? Well, because I think cute is something where... Well, so the thing with cuteness is that cuteness is a distinctly or oftentimes positive trait that does not necessarily indicate attraction. And I think that's very useful for a lot of people, because if they say, hey, this person, like, oh, that's such a cute model, or you're looking cute today, like, that doesn't mean I'm hitting on you. That doesn't mean I'm attracted to you. That just means I'm giving you a compliment. If you say, hey, you look good today, or like, hey, this really suits you, like, wow, you're sexy, for instance, those all indicate some degree of attraction, where cuteness is more just like, aw, how cute. So I think that's kind of why it is, like, even calling someone handsome, like, hey, handsome, like, that's flirty. That's indicating attraction. On the other aspect, that's like on a femme-leaning perspective, cuteness and like calling something or someone cute is just saying it's good, effectively. Like, because women and femmes are societally conditioned to be like, hey, cuteness, be cute, be demure, be mindful. So calling other stuff cute is just a demonstration of like thumbs up. Whereas generally men calling stuff cute actually tends to take a bit of a negative connotation of being like, hey, that's cute. Like, don't act cute with me. That's the most time I've heard it from like mask folk. So it is interesting, but I think that it's because it's one of the most like neutral compliments. We need a mask equivalent. I was gonna say comely, but that's neutral. That might be femme-leaning. Because comely is just like attractive in a very mundane way of just like, oh, if someone is comely, it means they're not particularly beautiful or handsome or cute or anything. They're just like a good-looking person. Although because of AE, I tend to pay attention what compliment I give to people now. So cute is gender neutral, but think about it. If a woman calls something cute versus a man calls someone cute, assuming you don't know either of them, you're going to have different preconceived notions about who they are, what they think of the thing, and what the thing actually is, just because that's how society works. But cute is very much most people can call anything cute and it just be seen as like a thumbs up, like, hey, I approve of this thing. Sorry, I had to cough for a moment. You don't actually care about being called cute. It's entirely me playing into the teasing game, but shh. Yay! I know you're all a tsundere. I'm a tsundere too, but like, you're on a whole nother level. You are aggressive in how much you are like attention starved. It's very funny to watch. I say that with love. The more gender neutral is calling it nice, like, hey, you're looking nice today. No, and I think that nice is even less attraction oriented. If I say, hey, you're looking nice today, or like, looking sharp, like, those are all even less, like, you can call someone cute, like, hey, cute, like, hey, you're looking cute, or like, hey, cutie, and that can be flirty. Whereas if you're like, hey, looking nice today, that's less so. But I feel like cute has that emotional weight to it of like, you might say a piece of architecture is nice, or like a scene is nice, but generally if you call something or someone cute, it's more than just like dismissively approving it. It is like actively being like, hey, thumbs up. I think that's where it is. I think it's the inflection point of attraction and dismissive, where it's the perfect middle ground, at least a lot of people have found, of I'm not overstepping bounds, but I'm going as far as I can in the realm of acceptable. Arrow looking spiffy. Listen, if someone called me spiffy, I'd be like, well, hello, thank you. I love obscure adjectives, like, hey, out here looking like a tatterdemalion. Do you know what that means? Do you know what it means if I call you a tatterdemalion? I didn't think so, because it's like an 1800s or like 18th century, maybe 1700s slang for someone who is like disheveled and underdressed. Like, look at this tatterdemalion. Or like, I'll call people harlots because like that's just an old term for like a lady of the night, as it were. And it's so obtuse that I don't think anyone would get offended by it. They're just bewildered by it. So I'm like, like literally, I was streaming with Rorston the other week. We played chess, and there was a lot of jokes going on because, of course. And then he goes to stream another game after the collab ended, and I just go in his chat and I say, "You harlot, playing another game after you were playing with me? You knew that one? Well, look at you, Kismet. What an academic intellectual." Listen, Kaza, you are struggling to function, and I respect that. Because, like, me too, you know? I need to say something. Anything? I'm gonna talk about Mom. Get that lore. I guess it's time to tell you what's been going on. You might not love what I have to say next. Probably be angry. At least I think you would have been. I'll try to keep this short. So, you died, and no one saw it coming. One day you were gone. I don't think I've processed that yet, to be honest. Mom couldn't handle the pain, so she shut down. I guess that was her coping mechanism. She spent months crying over you. She barely slept or ate. I didn't expect this to be easy, but I thought I'd still have my mom to lean on. I convinced myself that I was lucky to have her, regardless of how she was handling this. That's what I kept telling myself on the worst days. We weren't alone either. People tried to support her. Aunt Cora wanted her to visit a therapist, but Mom locked the doors and ignored the phone. I tried to talk with her too, but it was like she couldn't hear me. She was a shell of a person, shutting everything and everyone out. I thought she needed time, but one morning she packed her clothes and bought a plane ticket. There was no warning, She said she'd be back in 2 weeks, that she needed a vacation. Mom left, and it sucks to say, but I knew she wouldn't come back. I've seen her a handful of times since. One of those times was to sell the house that you built. I still drive past it. I like to pretend that you'll be waiting on the porch, having a cigarette or watering the plants. What do you mean? Arrow, DaVinci Resolve just crashed on me and I'm blaming you. How is it my fault? I am the one who last night was called into a VC so I could teach someone DaVinci Resolve, and then you got involved, and then Rorston did not edit his video. I take zero responsibility for your DaVinci Resolve not working. Pish posh. It's soothing in a strange way, like opening my favorite chapter in an old book, pretending I don't know the ending. I pause to catch my breath. Mom's in an apartment on the other side of the country with her new boyfriend, but I stayed here. She helped with my tuition and rent, but she's gone. Honestly, if you saw her today, you wouldn't recognize her. I feel like I never really knew her. She left me behind, and I think it's because I remind her of you. There's a hole in my heart where my mom used to be, and I hated her. Part of me still does. I used to think it would be easier if she disappeared. Isn't that horrible? Fuck me. Saying it is worse than feeling it quietly. Daddy, I spent so much time hating her. I better not have someone sound clip that. She took up all the space I had left in my heart. But the worst part of it all is that I think I forgot to deal with losing you. Oh yeah, this is a sad game. Apparently it deals with lesbians, and I think it has a happy ending would be my guess. But it's a game about grief. It's a game about like overcoming trauma. But it's Halloween themed, so I decided to choose it. That's why I'm here today, because the person I need to talk to most in this world isn't part of this world. I look skyward and blink back welling tears. Huh. Aunt Cora used to tell me to think of you smiling down on me. I keep thinking of how sweet she is to say that, but when I picture you, you're looking up. I know that sounds dark, but seriously, what's left of you is 6 feet below me. Cora wanted me to remember you in a happy way. I get that. I'm just too literal. We love an autistic queen. Listen, hey, just because you opened my stream and your editor crashed, that's because I was too powerful. Your computer couldn't handle it, and you need to just make the sacrifice of not having DaVinci Resolve open. I search for what to say next and wonder what he'd say if he were here. The truth is, I don't know what you feel. I didn't get a chance to know you better. Cora's words echo in my mind. Dad's smile. What was your smile like anyway? And why didn't I try harder to preserve it in the first place? The frustration that I can't swallow begins to form in my throat. I stay silent, afraid that my voice will break, and the rest of me will follow. I do my best to reanimate my dad's grin in my mind's eye, but there's nothing. Aphantasia Queen? A stray leaf dances in front of me before heading west with the wind. I push away the distraction and close my eyes, forcing myself to focus on his lost expression. I try to revisit each part of him. His amber eyes, his perfectly straight nose, the way his eyebrows furrowed when I asked too many questions. Slowly, I could piece him together, but he wouldn't assemble. Even his voice was a dulling whisper. Why couldn't I remember how he spoke? One exact phrase plucked from my memory would be enough to hear him, but the words remained unspoken. I couldn't even remember how he sounded when he said, "I love you." A familiar pain begins to claw at my chest, one I buried under a mountain of pills earlier this morning. No, not now. I inhale a ragged breath and shove the shadows away. Something I've practiced for a while now. Keep talking, distract yourself. You know, it's good that I visited her before the snow. Winter is nearly here. You might not realize it, but today's your favorite holiday. It's also the day you died. 4 years ago. Maybe you knew that part, too. He suffered long enough to know he was going to die, I think. That was the detail that made me vomit when they told me about his accident. He was awake when the ambulance arrived. Why wasn't it faster? In my constant reimaginings, he'd always been unconscious. I couldn't bring myself to picture any details. I didn't want to remember how he suffered, but it was part of his story. It was part of his life. His suffering and vices had even drifted into my dreams lately. The anniversary always amplified them. I tried smoking and drinking just to see what you thought was so great about it. I must have gotten the genes from you because they're my favorite crutch now. I don't know why you tortured yourself with them. At least I have my reasons. But I did know. My mom stopped hiding their broken marriage once his casket was closed. I knew things were rough, but I didn't realize how destructive they were. Hey, if you need to step away, I get it. Like, I've had this in my Steam library for like 2 years at this point. And I've just been like waiting on it, but... Or maybe 1 year, but I've just been waiting to play it, so I didn't actually know much about it. This is definitely way more impactful and like oofta than I was expecting. Lately, I started to question if my mother was the true monster in his life. What if she's the monster? Sorry, tone. I get it. It's funny. I spent so much time asking myself why you tortured yourself with shitty choices when I mirror them daily. That's why I'm here too. Because I'm your daughter. I came here to suffer, not to heal. This pain doesn't mend like a paper cut, Dad. It festers like a gunshot. I'm so frustrated because now I know who Mom is. She's shown the world her true colors. You deserve better. Wait, what was that? What was that? British spelling. British spelling. Yeah, but you're the type to track death. I mean, that's... If it's someone important to you, you should. You deserve better. Why can't I picture her so perfectly? It's not fair. I bite my lip and push my mother's face from my memory. This isn't about her. Don't let her steal this moment. Anyway, I've been writing. Quite a lot, actually. Almost daily. It's therapeutic, I think. Getting my feelings on paper helps me feel detached from them. They're a little less heavy when I read them aloud. True. Journaling, folks. Even if you write out your feelings, then don't, like, self-reflect. Don't look back on them. Don't reread them. Don't do anything with them. Getting them out helps you sort through them. 100%. When I write, I can push the darkest thoughts I'm having away, even momentarily. The best part is, I'm not afraid that someone's listening and analyzing. It feels safer than the grief counseling I attended. I don't think the professionals were judging me, but when they listened, I felt them processing my words and misunderstanding. Just because I write dark things doesn't mean I'm a dark person. I'm reaching for brighter thoughts and feelings when I let those words go. My new therapist understands. She's different than the others. She's not like other therapists. It finally feels important that I go to my appointments. I don't look forward to them because they're a lot. But when I leave, I feel lighter. Like I've lessened the load on my shoulders. I get scared sometimes because each day is a wild card. I hate feeling like everything is out of my control. I'm terrified that therapy can't save me. I don't want to bottle things up again. Holding that shit in was the worst idea I've ever had. Fuck it. Dad, I'm done pretending. I drink. I smoke. I pop some pills before I left the house. I'll do anything to be numb. And I'm afraid that scribbling my feelings isn't enough. I thought the pain was dulling, but it's worse than the day you died. I know you're not here today, but I keep picturing you in every tomorrow. And every day, that image grows a little dimmer. Between losing you and Mom taking off, I've been trying so hard to feel empty. Being happy felt out of reach, so feeling less became the best option. Turns out being destructive couldn't save me. You can't hear drowning girls cry. I wipe away the overflowing stream of tears with my sleeve and shut my eyes. Practice those deep breaths. It's okay to be upset. I inhale and exhale. But the breaths are intruded on. The earth sways below as a sensation of floating overcomes me. Almost like sitting on a boat. Uh-oh. Why does it feel like the world's drifting? It's probably those stupid allergy pills. A twinge of concern washes over me as I try to imagine the state of my liver, but I excuse the thoughts quickly. It's not like I eat vegetables or drink enough water anyway. Coffee, bread, and cheese are my food groups. It was dumb to take more pills before leaving. I know it's a bad day when they can't keep me from crying. Try to focus on the positives. At least I was doing better. Taking them as prescribed was a challenge, but I'd managed to for a while. Today was the hiccup. They're usually a subtle but helpful bandage. I'm an idiot for thinking they'd handle this visit. Subtle can't handle this. How could I ever expect this visit to be easy? It was naive of me. Today's gonna fucking sting. The words I've whispered under my breath 1,000 times echo out once again. You're never gonna be okay. I sit with the words. You're never going to be okay. Never. Ever. Again. I tell myself that I needed to get those words out of my system. But I know they're bound to sit on the tip of my tongue again, waiting to escape. With my eyes still shut, I sigh and let my thoughts drift with the vertigo. Maybe those pills weren't so useless. A chilly gust lifts fluttering leaves from the earth, and I hear them dancing through the air. I begin to imagine that I'm flying with them, twirling away from this place, away from my body. Hello? A voice? I must have imagined it. Are you okay? What the? I open my eyes and stumble upward in a daze. I hurriedly dust off my clothes before looking towards the stranger behind the question. Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. I'm taken aback by your presence. I didn't expect to see anyone here. No, it's fine. You didn't scare me. My throbbing heart tells a different story. I suddenly feel thankful that I'm not the blushing type. Are you alright? I'm fine. Why? She gestures towards my dad's headstone and subtly raises her eyebrows. I think you were sleeping on someone's grave. Did you, know them? I laugh half-heartedly. It's my dad. He wouldn't mind. Oh! The girl's posture stiffens noticeably and I remind myself to tone back the abruptness. You're not talking to a ghost anymore. Act natural. Act normal. Yeah, it is sad, Kismet, but we love when storytelling is cathartic. Who you is? What's your name? I'm Lucia. And you are? I quickly realized that I should have introduced myself first. It would have been the polite thing to do. Why do I always feel so disjointed when I meet new people? It's embarrassing. My name's Elle. It's nice to meet you. That sounded more robotic than genuine, but at least I'm trying. So, Elle, do you mind if I ask why you're napping in a cemetery? Well, it wasn't on the agenda. I took allergy medication and it hit a little harder than I anticipated. Oh, I've been there. What are you allergic to? I scrambled to come up with a good excuse. Not too sure. Had some hives and figured it was best to take a pill. Or 4. I get it. Sometimes cats make my eyes itchy. I pet them anyway. They're worth it. I can't help but smile back at Lucia. You seem sweet. So, you were visiting someone too? Lucia's smile falters. Nice job. You're always good at brightening the room. Yes, my sister passed away. Her name is Kate. She died last week. I can't help but regurgitate the sentence that everyone has spoken to me in the past. I'm so sorry. Yep. I'm sorry. Lucia shifts her feet uncomfortably and stares at the ground. I remember standing like that too, unsure of how to respond. Ugh, sorry. That wasn't the right thing to say. I don't mind. It's what everyone says. I know. I've been there. My dad died 4 years ago, so the memories are still pretty fresh. Lucia's eyes widen fearfully. They are? I struggle to backtrack, just jumping to console her as best I can. Not in the same way you're feeling. I mean that it's his anniversary today, so it feels closer than usual. Lucia's shoulders drop slightly as her gaze softens. That's understandable. I get it now. I'll be visiting on Kate's day too. Does visiting get easier? A Molotov mixture of disgust and embarrassment builds in my chest. What am I supposed to say? In this house, we tell the truth. It don't matter if it hurts. It don't matter if it traumatizes you. You deserve to know. Also, yes, Lucia is very cute. I decide the truth is my best option. I don't know. Her eyebrows furrow slightly, a hint of confusion glimmers in her gaze. What do you... I mean that I haven't been here since he was... I trail off. The word's too heavy to speak. I haven't talked about his burial before. The smooth and polished shine of his cherry wood casket revisits me. No. Don't cry in front of her. Don't scare her. I shake my head and try to find my way back to the present. Sorry. Lucia nods in silent understanding. We pause for a moment, both not quite sure how to continue. Lucia takes a step closer, trying her best to mend the gap between us. Elle, you don't have to explain. I'm sorry that I prodded. I expect the knots in my stomach to twist and tighten, but they nearly surrender as Lucia looks at me apologetically. Instead of burying the words and leaving them to wait for my notebook, I speak up. I want to explain. Lucia smiles softly with a hint of encouragement. When it came to visiting, I couldn't do it. It never felt right. My memories of him aren't in this spot, they're everywhere but here. I tried once, but it wasn't long after he'd passed. He was full of life, so his graveside, it wasn't a place I could reflect on him. Until today? Yeah. Today, I wanted to try again. I'm not exactly sure why. I guess I hoped it would help with closure. Lucia looks towards my father's headstone. Those are beautiful flowers. I like the arrangement you chose. I bite my lip unconsciously. Thanks, but I didn't leave those. I think his sister was here earlier. Cora's big on flowers. Oh, well, she has good taste. Sorry to focus on the flowers. I can't help myself. I'm a florist. That's interesting. The anxious realization that I never thought to bring my dad flowers hits me. It never even crossed my mind. Does Lucia think it's rude that I didn't? Maybe you could suggest a bouquet for my dad. I should have brought one. Hey, if it's not your thing, don't feel like you have to buy them. Lucia smiles carefully as she reads me like an open book. I do have an idea, though, if you want to leave him something meaningful. Please, I'd love to share. Or, please, I'd love to. I expected not to mean that, but for some reason, I want to. Wait here, please. I nod as Lucia walks past me. I flip through my notes instead of staring after her, doing my best not to act entranced. Where did this girl come from? She's so sweet. The crunch of fallen leaves and her footsteps carries for the distance. Lucia stands closer than before. I brought you this. She reaches into her bag and extends her hand. Aw, look at this. A single icy blue rose sits between her thumb and forefinger. This, I think, is the cover art of the game. I reach forward, but stop in hesitation. Where did you get it? It was left at Kate's grave. A gasp escapes my lips and I shake my head. I can't take that. No, don't worry. Kate would want your father to have a flower. She doesn't like the roses anyway. Lucia trails off, realizing what she said. I mean, didn't. Kate didn't like roses. I try my best to reassure her with my gaze as I accept the rose. Thank you. That present tense thing, it goes away. Don't feel like you need to jump to correct yourself. Time will take care of it. Lucia nods silently in response. As I kneel against the cold earth to place the blue rose on my dad's grave, I realize how fresh the flower is. The edges of the petals have barely begun to wilt. I feel Lucia's eyes on my back. Before turning towards her, I ask the question on my mind. Lucia? When was Kate's funeral? Yesterday? As I face Lucia, I want to ask her why she's here today. I want to know how she's doing. I want to hug her. I want to make her feel less alone, even if for a fraction of a second. I want to give her what I never had. Blue roses can mean aspiration and admiration. It can also mean great respect for someone. Interesting. Yeah, so flower languages and like flower colors is something that I know almost nothing about. I think it's super cool. It's like a secret language. It's so cool. A moment of silence passes us by. But before I can ask Lucia to let me in, she breaks the silence herself. Are you still tired? I massage the back of my neck absent-mindedly and laugh a little. Yeah. Did the dark circles give me away? True! Me too. Lucia giggles softly. No, your eyes are fine. That was kind of her to lie about. I've looked in a mirror before. I can't believe I fell asleep. It's a little embarrassing. Don't worry about it. You drink coffee? Yes? Let me buy you one. You don't want to sleep through Halloween. There's a great coffee shop in the Old Town district. Old Town? Isn't that a little far? Did you drive here? No, I walked. Well, I don't mind giving you a ride. Let me take you. It's my treat. Unless you have other plans? I don't, but a part of me remains hesitant. Getting into cars with strangers isn't something my parents encourage, that's for sure. She seems harmless enough, but I don't actually know her. Plus, today is not exactly an easy day for me. Lucia quietly reads over my rigid stance. Without explanation, she grins and starts to giggle at me. You want to take a selfie together? What? You can send it to a friend. That way, if you go missing, they'd know exactly who to look for. I smile back at her and subtly shake my head. Ah, it's fine. I stick up my thumb in a hitchhiking fashion. I love the thrill of getting into a stranger's car. Lucia playfully rolls her eyes before winking at me. Buckle up then, we're going for a ride. Hello, welcome back with Cat in Lap. We head towards the road, walking past rows of headstones side by side. I didn't imagine I'd be leaving here with someone. The feeling of walking close to her is strangely comforting. I guess I always expected to be here alone. Even if I had a special person in my life, I wouldn't ask them to come here. It's hard to understand what it's like to visit this place, unless you're missing someone. The drive to the coffee shop is uneventful. Lucia's car has heated seats, so I try my best to subtly warm my hands under my legs. She doesn't seem to notice and stays focused on driving. We chat about the weather, mostly. Once we reach the Old Town district, Lucia carefully navigates towards the last parking spot on the street. Boo! This is the place. I haven't been here in forever. After stepping out of the car, Lucia gently tugs on my sweater and guides me to the crosswalk. She's practically bouncing towards the cafe. Once we cross, we find ourselves at the front door. Despite the chilly weather, they still offer outdoor seating. A waitress steps outside to greet us with a smile on her face. Welcome. If you'd like to take a seat, I'll be right with you. As the waitress steps inside, I move to follow her. Lucia pulls up my sleeve again with an expectant grin. Let's sit out here. It's more private. Blue roses are usually romantic in nature, but I'm not sure if that's intended messaging. I'm probably overthinking this. So Kismet, this is advertised as like overcoming trauma on Halloween with lesbians. So I think it's supposed to be. I think that's exactly what it is. Kismet, I think that you are 100% reading this correctly. As we take our seats outside the cafe, I can feel the energy of the cemetery fall away. Our table is vibrantly decorated with Halloween-themed trinkets and candles. This is so cute! I can't argue with that. She's definitely chose a festive spot. The street is bustling with ghouls and witches. Even our waitress is dressed up. Happy Halloween! Can I interest you in one of our spooky specials? Lucia's eyes light up immediately. Woo! What are they? The waitress grins, realizing she's hooked Lucia in. Today we have our pumpkin cheesecake paired with any of our fall specialty drinks for $8.99. That is a steal. I don't even know what they are. That must be a steal. Yes, Kismet with lesbians. We love we love healthy Yuri, where you both grow as a result. Also, this is like full-on grumpy sunshine, which is like always fun. Plus, they're both traumatized. If you're craving something warm and hearty, we also have butternut squash soup with one of our fresh baked biscuits. Lucia squeals out with delight. I'm not squealing. I love cheesecake. Can I get the pumpkin cheesecake with a pumpkin spice latte, please? I guess she likes pumpkins. After jotting down Lucia's order, the waitress's gaze darts towards me. What would you like? The pumpkin cheesecake sounds fine. And a drink? I rack my brain for anything other than the pumpkin spice latte. Sorry, what are your other fall drinks? Maple pecan and chai lattes. Lucia raises her eyebrows and whispers exaggeratedly across the table. Psst, Macon, the maple pecan sounds super yummy. I can't help but chuckle. Okay, I'll get the maple pecan latte. The waitress nods and leaves with a smile. Barely a minute passes before our waitress rushes back to the table. Here are your lattes. Thanks so much. I'll bring your cheesecake over as soon as it's ready. Lucia peers over at me with a curious glimmer in her eyes. Do you think it's too hot to sip? I'm sure it's fine. I lift the cup to my lips and decide to take a swig. Yikes! My throat burns as I try desperately to clear it inconspicuously. I do my best not to sputter on Lucia as I reply, It's it's quite warm still. She giggles softly. You didn't need to be my lab rat. Just trying to be helpful. Lucia raises her cup and takes a careful sip. It's not that hot. Were you trying to scare me? Well, it is Halloween. How did she not manage to scald herself? Does she have no sense of temperature? Maybe that's why she chose outdoor seating on this chilly day. Do you like celebrating Halloween? I falter, unsure of how to explain myself. I used to. Lucia realizes what she's asked. Sorry, I can't believe I forgot that today is no apology necessary. I try my best to steer the conversation with a lighter tone in my voice. I do like Halloween, by the way. I just haven't done much other than hold out candy for a few years. The kids in my neighborhood love my place. They always know I have tons of treats. You only hand out candy? You haven't dressed up? No, but I did like that part when I was in high school. Great! I'm going to a costume party tonight. What do you think? Spooky or sexy? Oh no. Huh? What kind of costume should I go for? I have a closet full of options. Chat. We are so in, right? But like, we're so in, right? Like, we're so in. Personally, I'm always a fan of people who go like really, basically, so Halloween costumes and cosplay has a massive overlap. And I think that there is an art to like sexy cosplay, sexy Halloween costumes, like doing more than just like, oh, I'm going to buy like a pre-made, like really skimpy outfit, like actually putting effort into it. But at the same time, personally, I prefer spooky costumes and like actually like, again, I don't want to say like high effort because like you can have like a high effort, like sexy kind of costume, but like one that's like really balls to the wall, like spooky or cool or like lore accurate or whatever. That's pretty awesome. However, we are so in. We are so in. Sexy costumes are fun. She winks at me playfully. How did I know you'd suggest that? Fighting back a goofy grin, I bite my cheek hard. A flash of pain dances across my face. Elle, are you okay? I'm fine. I was just thinking about what costumes you might have. Why would you say that? I somehow managed to embarrass myself more than I feared. Lucia politely ignores the comment instead of teasing me. So, do you want to come to the party with me? I was going to go alone, but it'd be great. Oh, wait. No, I'm not. I was skipping on accident. Do you want to come to the party with me? I was going to go alone, but it would be great to bring a... Lucia's words drift away from me. Oh, it has a natural skip. Understood. Because fun fact, this is made in RenPy, which is a visual novel engine, which I actually have some experience with. So as I'm playing this game, I'm thinking like, how would I do this? How did they do this? What would I do differently, like mechanically and just interface wise? So it's fun to play a visual novel from a like visual novel dev perspective. Lucia's words drift away from me. My limbs stiffen as if I'd suddenly been plunged into icy water. A party on Halloween. That night. He went out that night. I was the one that called him. I bite my cheek, desperate to escape the coursing river of guilt. No freaking out. Not now. I dig my nails into my palm, trying to snap myself away from the echo of that Halloween party. Okay. Focus and breathe. The idea of rejecting Lucia hurts, but I can't go with her. The voice of my therapist says, trauma trigger, rings in my ear. I promise that I'd stop being self-destructive, and I can't risk Lucia seeing me like that. I can't. Not tonight, at least. The ghost of that distant night disappears as quickly as it arrived. I'm at the cafe with Lucia. I'm okay. Lucia grips the handle of her mug and spins it absent-mindedly. I thought you didn't have plans. I have a date later. Sorry that I didn't mention it. Oh, no, we're so not in. L. Self-sabotage. A frown escapes Lucia. A date? I nod. Yep, with a big bowl of leftover candy. Oh! Relief washes over her. If it isn't obvious already, I'm painfully single. Sorry. If it isn't obvious already, I'm painfully single. It's not obvious. Really? Of course it isn't. You're so pretty. Okay, we're back. We are so back in. For a second, my heart skips a beat. Wow. I realize how rude I might be coming off. I mean, thanks. We break eye contact and struggle to continue. That's one way to snap back into reality. Oh, there goes gravity. Come on, keep it up. So, what's it like being a florist? My ploy to redirect the conversation is painfully evident. L, you are so in. You are fumbling harder than Rorston. Lucia doesn't brush me off, luckily. My family has owned a flower shop for 3 generations, so it's pretty natural for me. What about you? Are you a student? No, I graduated from a tourism and hospitality program. I work at the Spring Dream of Sweets. That sounds interesting. It's really not. My job is to fend off bad reviews, basically. Lucia laughs, but I'm afraid it's forced. Do you like to travel? I haven't really traveled since I was a kid, but if I ever had the chance, I'd love to work at a resort. Just to see what it's like to live in a warm climate. Yeah, I don't know if that's your fault, Kaza. I think that might be just YouTube, because YouTube has a pre-built-in delay. So that's not a you. My apologies. I think that's just how YouTube works. Count me in. I'm always down to book a room at an island resort. I promise I'll leave a good review too, if you get me a discount. I can't help but giggle. I'll do my best. Curious about your job. When did you join your family's business? They started training me when I was young. I spent plenty of summers playing in my grandmother's garden. She started the business with my grandfather. It's beautiful. They have a huge property out in the countryside. I loved putting together bouquets for my mom when I was little. My grandma would help me pick them, so they always turned out perfectly. She called it my training. Her plan worked though. I'm running the business with my parents now. My grandparents are retired, but they still help out when we're short-handed. Lucia's gaze seems to intensify. It feels like she's looking right through me. Is she alright? She notices my concern and smiles reassuringly. Sorry, I was thinking about those summers as a kid. I can still picture the day that my sister made a flower crown out of daisies. She put it on my head and called me a princess. It was just a game to Kate, but... She clears her throat. That was the day I fell in love with flowers. Man, you miss being able to go out trick-or-treating. It feels like the world around you has outgrown it. Yeah, and I've noticed that as I've grown up, I feel like fewer and fewer children would come by. Maybe it's just because, like, when I grew up in my neighborhood, I was one of the younger people in the neighborhood. And then, like, obviously generational, like, shifting of houses. New families moved in as old families moved out. And then eventually I was old enough that I moved out of the, like, family house. And then it was just like, by then I didn't see all the young folks who were trick-or-treating because, hey, like, I moved by then. But even like where I am now, I got like a big rush of people. Actually, the hour before stream, I was cooking dinner downstairs right by the front door. And I was just like giving candy out to kids. But even in the new area where I'm at, there's not a lot of trick-or-treaters, I found. Like, this year was the most by far out of the past couple of years. Hello, Shroomy. I do look different. It's called wearing a costume. Although, my fun little tidbit about me is this hairstyle is actually closer to my normal hairstyle than what I wear on stream. Because on stream, I have the little bit of like fringe in the center of my face, and then I have my hair up in a ponytail. But when I'm off stream, this is how I wear my hair normally. Covering half my face, letting it loose in the back. Yeah. No, it was fun making this little outfit. I might wear it for other streams, who knows. But for now, it is my Halloween costume because let's get a little fancy here. That was the day I fell in love with flowers. I'll never forget it. Lucia. That was a vulnerable moment. Her hands tremble ever so slightly. She must have been nervous to share that memory with me. That's so well, hello ladies. Here's your pumpkin cheesecake. Before I can finish, our waitress interrupts. We wait for her to set down our plates and cutlery. Can I get you anything else? I think we're good, thanks. The waitress steps away and heads inside. I fiddle with my notebook and flip through the pages while Lucia sips her drink. Elle, can I ask you a question? I smile, eager to start chatting again. Go ahead. Lucia motions towards the table. What's that? Oh, it's my notebook. Like a diary? Sort of. It has a bit of everything. Unfinished thoughts, sketches, and some journaling. I don't usually carry it around. You brought it for your dad? Maybe it was obvious, or maybe she understands me. Oh, well, look at you actually having a social life. Enjoy your Halloween party, Shroomy. Thank you for swinging on by. Yeah, I did. I thought about reading to him, but I felt weird once I got there. I talked to him instead, which wasn't much easier. I think I know how you feel. I tried talking to Kate today, but I couldn't. I left her voicemails instead. It felt closer to how things were. Almost normal. It's subtle, but Lucia's voice breaks as she chills off. Instinctively, I reach across the table. For a fraction of a second, my hand rests atop her own. We're so in. I pull away swiftly, fearing that I've invaded her space. Sorry. She stares at her lap, unmoving. Thank you. That was nice. For a moment, I envisioned that horrible precipice Lucia is hovering on the edge of. Unfiltered, unprocessed, raw grief. One day, she's going to realize that in the infinite possibilities of the universe, she will never see her sister again. The realization that there will never be another moment shared with Kate. The end of making memories and the beginning of their blurring. It seems clear, but it never is. Elle? Yeah? Lucia bites at her lip and stares into her cup. I have questions that I'm afraid to ask anyone else. I don't want to be weird or rude, but you seem to understand loss better than anyone I've spoken to. I struggle to give her a good answer. What if I make her feel worse? I decided to warn her. Honestly, I'm not the best person to get grief counseling from. I need someone to be real with me. I'm tired of being brushed off. Suddenly, the circle of chairs in the church basement revisits me. I felt brushed off too. It was so discouraging. All right, what did people say to you? I heard that the stages can take years, but that the pain won't last forever. Is it true? The stages? Honestly, I forgot how much people like to focus on that idea. My grief wasn't in stages, at least not in the way I expected. She gives me a quizzical stare through glassy eyes. Emotions aren't dominoes. They don't fall in a logical pattern. My grief falls like a sudden rain on a cloudless day. I can wake up in acceptance and go to my bed angry or bargaining. Lucia's eyes brighten. That was poetic. I ignore her praise. Look, I know that your sister is always on your mind right now, but there's going to be days where you forget about Kate for longer than you ever thought possible. I forget about my dad all the time. Lucia seems startled by my admission. There are moments where his memory doesn't stir any pain or tears. Because you're healing? No. I feel shamed or angry or even dull at times. It always feels wrong. You'll probably be disgusted with yourself for pulling it together and burying how deeply you miss her. I felt punished for trying to function. Going to work, visiting friends, even getting dressed. Putting away the pain is harder than carrying it. I just want you to know that. There's no winning. There's no easy way to process this loss. She blinks carefully, intentionally, as if she's truly absorbing the information. You know, Lucia stops to clear her throat before continuing. I didn't plan to go back to Kate's grave today. You didn't? No. I was driving around mindlessly and it sort of dawned on me that wandering in a daze was disrespectful to her memory. She would have done anything for a clear moment. I'm not sure that I follow. I don't want to demand answers, but I can't nod and pretend it makes sense like that grief group did. I'm not here to tell her that she's young and that'll make it easier. That was wrong of them. Anecdotes and adages aren't solutions. I want to listen and do my best to understand her. But Lucia doesn't move to explain herself. If you're not ready to tell, no, it's fine. Sorry, I need a moment. I nod and wait for her to gather her thoughts. She takes a deep breath and begins. Kate suffered from chronic health problems and taught me what a privilege a pain-free day is. She tried her best to live a normal life, but her health had a habit of stealing happy moments from her. One moment, Kate didn't get up for breakfast. My mom went upstairs to check on her. They had plans to go shopping, so it was odd that she hadn't started getting ready yet. When my mom walked in, Kate wouldn't wake up. She was taking prescription drugs for her illness, and she aspirated in her sleep. It was sudden. She died all alone. And now I'm here, 1 week later, enjoying a pumpkin spice latte while my sister starts to rot on the ground. My heart shudders as she spoke the word rot. So yeah, I get what you mean. There are no right choices. Every moment without her feels wrong. I feel like a stranger in my own life. I'd never say anything like that, especially to someone I've just met, but I spoke it without hesitating. And now I'm regretting every word. I'm afraid that you think I'm a freak. No, it's horrible, but everything you said makes perfect sense. I don't want to tell her anything else. I don't want her to know my heart doesn't feel like it did before. Lucia gives me a look that cuts deep. This girl is staring into my eyes, looking for hope. I reach out and squeeze her hand, but comfort is forced. I don't know how to tell her that I'm broken too. She doesn't deserve the whiplash of false hope. I don't want to see her bite the apple. I don't want to watch it turn to bitter ash on her tongue. Pull my hand away and break the silence. Can I put my number in your phone? Talk about whiplash. Like, Elle, I know you're doing this to comfort her, but like, you are so in. Lucia straightens her posture and reaches for her bag. Sure. We are so in. She unlocks her phone and hands it over. I carefully type my information into the new contact menu, making sure I leave no mistakes. I know it's a cliche, but you can call me anytime. I don't care why, either. It doesn't have to be an emergency. She nods as she stashes her cell phone back into her bag. Thank you. I still have questions, if you're willing. I feel an acidic hesitation burning in my throat. I'm not sure I'm the person you should be around right now. I think you're wrong. I don't think I am. I tried talking to other people dealing with loss and it didn't help. Sometimes I wonder if the opposite would have been better. Maybe you need to surround yourself with people who don't get it. How would that help? Maybe you'll convince yourself that you're just like them. Fake it till you make it, but the grief counseling version. Look, I get it if you don't want to talk about grief, but I don't need kid gloves. She points to my lap. I want to hear the L that's in that notebook. I know you've already let me listen to her. When? The poetry? Grief that falls like sudden rain on a cloudless day? I'll bet you $20 that's been written in there. As much as I wouldn't mind paying for the meal, I won't bet against her. I know she's right. She knows it too. I push aside my uncertainty. It's not like you have to see her again. If your answer freaks her out, it was her choice to insist on them. But I find myself imagining her in my future. Where she fits in, I'm not sure. But I'm certain that I want to see her again. Okay, I'll bite. Finally. First, you have to make me a promise. What kind of promise? When we go our separate ways, you have to text me after. Even if it's to say bye forever. Okay? I promise that I'll text you. I wink at Lucia playfully. Ask me anything. I'm an open book. Listen, the Rizzler is real. The Relsler. She grins at the notebook pun. Okay, let's start weird. Was your dad's service an open casket? Yep. Did he look himself? They never do. I hadn't seen a body before Kate's service. I don't know what I expected a dead person to look like, but it wasn't that. Looking at her made me feel sick. Or maybe I was afraid? I couldn't believe it was her. She looked like a doll. Like a weird imitation of Kate. Even when I wasn't staring at her, I knew exactly where she was. I couldn't tear my mind away from that image. She definitely didn't look like she was sleeping. She looked dead. I could barely focus on the service. She was all I saw. It's awful, but I can't really remember what anyone said to me that day. The eulogies are a blur. I purse my lips. How did no one notice how did no one notice how she felt about seeing her dead sister? Arrow, my PC is chugging trying to render this. What did you do? Well, have you considered optimizing your streaming and recording and rendering setup and closing all of your tabs that are not DaVinci Resolve? I'm on YouTube. You can have YouTube on your phone open. If you're really that obsessed with Halloween grief acceptance Yuri, you can have me on your phone. How did no one notice how she felt about seeing her dead sister? Why didn't anyone help her? I'm sorry no one warned you before the funeral. I'm sorry that no one saw what you were dealing with during it either. You needed support and you deserved it. Thanks. Having a viewing isn't right for everyone. Please don't worry, it's okay to be freaked out. Your phone is charging. Well, you can have it playing a video while it's charging. You're not the first to feel that way, trust me. There's a term for it. Seriously? Yeah, it's called Uncanny Valley. When you look at someone you've seen animated with life and see that emptiness, that absolute absence of energy, it's different for everyone, but you're not gonna like it. I'm sorry you saw Kate that way. You deserved the option not to. Lucia frowned sharply. You're right. No one asked if I wanted an open casket. My parents did all the planning. I just showed up. My mom did the opposite. She dragged me to every moment of planning. Choosing Dad's casket, it's burned into my memory. There's no winning when you don't get a choice. We both deserve to make our own decisions. Lucia nods as her expression softens. After the funeral, I kept pulling a photo of Kate out of my wallet. I couldn't help but stare and cry. I was doing whatever I could to remember her the way she was instead of the shell I saw that day. I like to think that focusing on her smile helped. She sits back in her chair and motions towards her bag. Would you like to see it? I mean, I don't know why I would say no. Sure. At bare minimum, it's morbid curiosity, and on top of that, it's demonstrating interest and support to Lucia. Like, I think it's good to look at what she's offering, to look at what she's showing. Lucia carefully places a small photograph on the table between us. I sit forward and peer down, bracing myself. Instantly, I feel my heart shudder out of rhythm as I take in the smiling image of a girl my own age. She was so young. I look back to Lucia and... Oh, that was apparently a secret achievement. I look back to Lucia and try to keep my response simple. Your sister had a beautiful smile. She nods in agreement. I took that photo when we were gardening together last summer. Weeding my grandma's garden was always a pain, but Kate did her best to make me laugh whenever she could. She spent more time gathering up bouquets than actually pulling weeds. I didn't mind though. Chores weren't so bad when she was around to help. I think Kate smiled every day of her life. I'll miss that the most. She was a bright light. That's why I always wanted to be like my big sister. Lucia reaches over and takes the photo, tucking it away carefully in her wallet. Elle, please don't feel pressure. I get it if you can't share anymore. I know that I'm not entitled to your pain or experiences, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't want to hear them. Can I ask another question? Yeah. Go for it. Lucia's lips quiver as her amber eyes betray a sliver of anxiety. You're sure? Please, I want to help. She swallows audibly. Get that like Scooby-Doo like... Do you feel like he's watching you? An old weight descends and perches on my shoulders. The hovering of familiar eyes, a specter I thought I'd left in the past. I shrug it away with a practiced breath. In the first few weeks after he died, yeah. Quite often. That goes away fast, I think. You don't remember? I can't tell her how I yelled at nothingness in the days before Dad's funeral. How I ordered him away for my own comfort. That I didn't want him to visit ever. I needed to live without his ghostly gaze. That stays between us. Simplicity is best. It goes away. Or you just decide that you don't care what they see. A hint of blush touches her cheek. It better go away. It felt weird showering today. I couldn't stop picturing her standing on the other side of the curtain, waiting. It's eerie. I feel like I'm going crazy. I promise you're not crazy. I've been there. How did you do it? What? Cope? Cope, seethed, and mauled. How did I cope? That's an impossible question. I don't know if this is keep going and answer her, or keep going as in the way I cope is by taking a break or keep going. But at least in my experience, I have found what works for me is when I've lost people in my life, whether through death or parting ways, it's always keep going. It is when I am hit with tragedy, it is how do I recover, is how do I progress? Because stagnation will just lead to you being stuck. It will lead to you never leaving that moment and never moving on. And you shouldn't bury yourself in the miasma of the moment. You should not be stuck in the present of going forward and burn yourself out and not live your life. But you shouldn't be stuck in the past either. Like, you should have a healthy balance of respecting and acknowledging what has happened, what is happening, and what you want to happen going forward. So keep going. Honestly, that's an answer I'm still searching for. You must have tried something. Oh, Lucia, I tried plenty. I decided to turn the question back toward her. What have you tried in your first week? My hair, I guess. It wasn't this color last week. I had the appointment before Kate died. She booked it for me. I couldn't bring myself to cancel it, so I went to her funeral like this. There's a hint of regret in her voice. There's nothing wrong with fashion colors. Maybe from your perspective. I thought it would make me happy, but it didn't work. I remember when I felt that way too. When I thought that a haircut or a tattoo could spill some color into the gray haze. I regret not rescheduling at least. My cousin implied that I was trying to steal Kate's spotlight. Some of Kate's friends did too. Spotlight? What a poor choice of words. This is why the Ace of Wands reversed used to haunt me? Exactly! That wasn't fair of them to say. But it was. I did that when she was alive. Kate was my best friend and worst enemy. I got so jealous of her constantly. The worst part was Kate knew it, and she always did her best to reassure me that I was pretty or popular too. It didn't matter what was bothering me. She would put zero in on it and try to fix things. Kate could be too kind. It was disarming and infuriating. And as much as she bugged me, I'd do anything to get that back. I want her to make it better. I need to know what to do with all of this. I'm overflowing with feelings towards her, and there's no resolution. I can't work it out with her. Every chance slipped away in an instant. There's no outlet for this ocean of pain, and it hurts. I want it to stop, just for a second. I want a break. I can't give you a break. No one can. I know. I raised my hand to stop her. Wait, I wasn't done. I can't give you a break, but when things get too stormy, I can be your anchor. We are so in. I wait, half expecting her to burst into laughing over the lame sentiment. Or maybe she'll pity me and say thanks as quickly as possible. Her eyes grow wide in disbelief. Why? You don't even know me. I think I know you better than you want me to. I know the questions in your head. I've lived with them. Lucia freezes. Maybe that scares you? I feel like you know me too, and it's uncomfortable. It fills me with insecurities I didn't even know I had. But I still want to see you again. I want to meet the other pieces of you. I mean, I don't know your favorite color or hobbies, but I want to. She doesn't respond. That's the long-winded version of why I'll be there if you call. If you want to see me again. Lucia finally emerges from her silence. I do. But if you're going to know my story, I need to hear more of yours. I can tell you're censoring it. I'm not blind either. When I asked you about that Halloween party, you froze up. I saw it. Something stole you from our conversation for just a second. You don't need to hide that from me. If I'm going to be vulnerable, can't you be too? I promise I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going anywhere. Will you tell me what happened to you? We are so in. We support healthy Yuri. Yes, but if you have questions, wait until I'm finished. Lucia nods in agreement. Okay, I can do that. Fair warning, it's a long and messy story. If it's too much to hear right now, please stop me. I will if I need to. Alright. Oh. I swallow, but the lump in my throat remains. It's an uncomfortable ache. Until today, I hadn't felt that for months? Maybe even years. It's better than feeling nothing, right? I turn my attention back to Lucia. I'm gonna think aloud here. If I come off erratic, that's why. Honestly, I'm ashamed of myself, and that's not typical. I've hated myself. I felt angry, lonely, and stupid, but never ashamed. There was no one around that I cared enough about to feel shame. When you started asking questions, it made me reflect for the first time in a while. Despite my declaration of honesty, I can't help but hold back. Vulnerability is not my thing. It's exactly why therapy has always been a struggle. I decided to borrow the attitude I'd fought so hard to leave behind. Fuck it. Here goes nothing. 4 years ago, I went to a Halloween party. Lucia's eyebrows raised quickly, as expected. I was home from college that weekend, and I was so excited to get together with my old friends. Alright, enjoy, and make sure that whatever DaVinci Resolve project you have isn't still buffering and rendering as you're streaming. Freaking goober. We'd all gone to different schools, so it was something we'd been planning for a while. We all dressed up together before the crowd arrived. It started out pretty innocently, but a ton of people showed up and the party got kind of crazy. My friend was hosting and she didn't mind, luckily. Originally, I planned to stay the night, but I ended up drinking way too much and I needed to go home early. My boyfriend stayed on campus that weekend, so he couldn't give me a ride. I called my dad after midnight and he agreed to come pick me up. He wasn't mad or anything, he was glad that I called when I needed him. I was just having fun and overindulged. Yay, it finished rendering! Now you can post it for the inevitable stream time video. Oh, it's the fun little personal thing. Because you were saying you needed it done by stream, so I was assuming it was a stream thing. He understood. My dad was driving to my friend's place when a teenager in a truck blew through a stop sign and T-boned him. When the emergency services arrived, my dad was still awake. He didn't make it to the hospital. I wait, trying to gauge Lucia's response. She seems okay. I'll keep going. The kid that caused the accident walked away with superficial scratches. He was lucky in that regard, but mentally he was traumatized. I don't have any ill will towards him or anymore. He did his best to make amends with my family. Honestly, I hope he can live a normal life. One mistake shouldn't haunt him forever. After my dad died, things with my mom went downhill pretty quickly. I left school to stay home with her. It didn't feel right to leave her all alone. Things fizzled out with my boyfriend because of the distance, so I was dealing with my stuff too. I tried to be there for my mom, but nothing worked. When I spoke with her, she made me feel like I didn't exist. And when I tried to tell her about my feelings, she shut me down. She treated suffering like a competition. Oof. We hate that. I don't know about y'all in chat, but we hate that. She'd say he was just my dad. She'd rant on about how we're meant to lose our parents, that he was her husband, and that her pain would never end. I barely recognized her. There was even a time when I thought she might kill herself. I didn't know what to do. I was practically still a teenager. I catch myself holding back, but pushed through. It was fucking scary. Lucia purses her lips and nods solemnly. Her eyes speak as sincere as "I'm so sorry" as she possibly can. But she stays true to her word and doesn't interrupt, sensing that my story isn't complete. Without much of an explanation, she suddenly went on a vacation and never really came back. She moved to the West Coast and got a fresh start. East Coast represent! This is an East Coast game. I grit my teeth, forcing myself to say what I've only ever felt before. My mom said I was always welcome to join her. but I know she only offered because she knew I'd refuse to move. She knew that I wouldn't follow her. Eventually, she ended up hating my dad. I think it was her way of coping. Their marriage wasn't perfect, but she clung to everything that was wrong. He was a shift worker, always rotating from days to nights. It meant that he didn't get to spend as much time with us as he would have liked, but it paid for my mom's lifestyle. She always had new clothes, a nice car, whatever she asked him for. I know he loved her. He used gifts to try to make up for his schedule. My mom doesn't seem to remember that side of him. I guess it's easier to hate someone rather than mourn them. She never fails to shit-talk him whenever we're on the phone. In her eyes, her new boyfriend is perfect, and my dad was human garbage. I can't stand to listen to her for too long, so I keep our calls short and spaced out. My therapist calls creating boundaries. It feels like giving up, though. Because in the end, my mom got what she wanted. My mom's goal is to get rid of me, and she won. Call it a mental breakdown, a midlife crisis, whatever you want. There's something I've never been able to shake off, even years later. As I fight to utter them, the words try to escape me. They're unspeakable thoughts. Lucia looks at me, questioning, and I nod. Hell, you're safe with me. Please, you can say it. I exhale. Every day, I wake up and think, I want to go home. But I can't. That part of my life, that door is locked. I shake my head, disagreeing with my statement. No, that's not it. I want to go home, but my mom burned the whole house down. When I think of that part of my life, it's like sifting through a pile of ashes. There's nothing left. I did stupid things trying to numb the pain. I partied, slept around, couldn't go a day without smoking. I was always reaching for painkillers too. I think I convinced myself they'd quiet the throbbing in my head. House parties were too close to losing him, so I went to nightclubs instead. I remember dancing in the middle of a neon crowd, feeling more alone than I'd ever thought possible. I was surrounded by people smiling and partying, but there was no happiness. I realized no one was looking for me. I was screaming for help and no one could hear me. My dad was dead. My mom had a new life. I was completely alone. Those choices were my own, but they were choices my parents would have protected me from. Sorry, I'm just rereading. There were days where I laid in bed and couldn't pull the blankets off. All I could do was reach for a bottle. My own existence was too heavy. It was crushing. I got lucky in the end. My doctor probably saved my life. His office called it for an annual checkup, and instead of canceling, I felt compelled to go. I didn't tell him much, but he saw the signs and pushed me into treatment. Lucia, I'm not the kind of person you should be around. I'm not good. My mom, warm tears spill down my frigid cheeks like spring rain on forgotten snow. My throat constricts, threatening to choke my words into silence. I don't know what I did. I don't know why she left. I don't know why she stopped loving me. Lucia reaches across the table and squeezes my hand. As her fingertips brush across my skin, my shoulders drop. How does she do that? She has such a subtle presence. The smallest gesture feels like she's wrapped me in a fuzzy blanket. Why? Why do I feel safe telling you this? Lucia's expression softens as she pulls her hand away. Maybe this wasn't an accidental connection. I hastily wipe away the tears with my sleeve, doing my best to compose myself. What do you mean? I never planned to visit the cemetery. My sister wasn't the reason I pulled over. It was because of you. The universe put you there and pulled me in like a magnet. I was sent to find you. I think we were meant to meet. Kaza, we are so in. She's an astrology girly and she thinks that the universe brought us together. We are so in. Maybe you're right. Question, chat. Do you believe in fate? Do you believe in the universe? Do you believe in like an order to things? Because it's a very interesting conversation when you move past the initial hang up of it being a binary, like everything is random or nothing. or everything is random or everything is preordained. I feel like it's very interesting when you get into the idea of like, there's a middle ground. There is some things are predetermined, some aren't. Or even just like fate is real, but destiny isn't. What does that mean? Who knows? I don't know. I think it's a fun conversation to have, but maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. When I visited his grave, I nearly left as soon as I got there. I felt stupid for thinking a visit could help me find closure. I was gonna leave, but I felt a pull. So I sat down and stayed. A magnetism. That could have been the allergy meds too. They're prescribed by my doctor for anxiety. I took more than I'm supposed to. Lucia stiffens. I know, it's wrong. I'm not perfect. I'm an idiot, honestly. I promise I won't do it again. But if I hadn't, we probably wouldn't have met. She nods sympathetically. Yeah, and Kaza, that's the thing, is that like a little bit of it, at least to me, is why should I care when that is just the state of the universe? So I had this conversation. I don't actually think it was on stream. Or it might have been on stream. I don't know. But I was talking with folks, and it was the idea of like, are we just like, oh, sorry, I'm failing. Like, are we just like a brain in a jar? Because our entire life we could just be perceiving reality as, oh, well, it's all of just our brain in a jar coming up with reality. Is fate real? Is destiny real? And what I said is that if you have a fish and they're in an aquarium, that is not the ocean, right? However, it depends on how big the fish is and how big the aquarium is. Because if you have a fish who's really tiny, itty bitty, like all the way down there, and you have an aquarium that's really biggy, like the entirety of the earth, for all intents and purposes, the fish is in the ocean. It doesn't matter, because at that point, the aquarium is larger than the ocean. Or if you have a fish who's in a lake, the fish, it doesn't matter if it's in the ocean or a lake or an aquarium or what the higher level of existence there is. Oh, yeah, I understand it's a bit of a heavy game. My apologies. But like it's the idea that there's no consequence to the fish on what size body of water they're in. It doesn't matter if it's an aquarium or if it's a lake or if it's an ocean. Just like how with us, it doesn't matter if we live in a simulation or if we live in reality or if we live in a construction of a brain in a jar. Like, at the end of the day, we're a fish. We're doing fish things. And a fish that is large enough to realize it is in an aquarium has the potential to leave the aquarium. That matters. But if you're this little fish and you're in this giant, massive Earth-sized aquarium that has different biomes and biodiversity and is larger in scope than you will ever have the ability to explore, it doesn't matter if you're in an aquarium or if you're in a ocean or if you're in a like unique planet. What matters is that the question is at too high of a scale and too high of a level for you to even engage with. You can never prove you are not in a larger aquarium. Because, for instance, if I, as a fish, say, okay, I'm in this area, I'm going to go around this entire area, I'm going to explore all of it. Oh, I've proven that this is not an aquarium. Well, consider the means by which I'm demonstrating this. We are in MS Paint. This fish is incapable of leaving MS Paint. So you can't say that the fish is free. You can't say that the fish has unfettered access, even though it's not in the aquarium, because there's always that higher level. In the same way, we have no way of proving that fate doesn't exist, or that destiny doesn't exist. Like, in the same way that a fish can't prove that it's like a drawing in MS Paint. Or you could also make the argument of, I'm a fish, and I'm going to explore my surroundings. Wow, look at my surroundings. They're everywhere. This is so amazing. And then it turns out, hey, I just proved I don't live in an aquarium. I live in an ocean. But uh-oh, loser. Turns out the aquarium was actually this big. And you just didn't see it because you weren't thinking big enough. Right? Because it's the sort of deal where, like, you can never disprove unreality. You can never say, I can factually prove we're not in a simulation. Because someone can say, well, what if the simulation is so advanced that any technology we would develop wouldn't be able to detect it? Or you can't prove that there is no such thing as fate, because you could say, oh, well, maybe there's a certain amount of randomness built in to the system of fate in order to preserve free will. Like, you can always expand and expand and expand. The only thing you can do is prove that we are in it. Because if this fish goes here and says, oh no, I hit a wall, I'm in an aquarium. If we, with like scientific measurements, can be like, oh, we're living in a simulation, or we are living in a system governed by fate that is like follows actionable principles. Or for instance, like the laws of thermodynamics and like physics, that's stuff that we can interface with and actually comprehend and interact with. But it doesn't matter if this fish is in a fish tank and that fish tank is in a lake, because the fish has no idea that the lake even exists. It can only interface with the aquarium. Maybe it escapes and gets into the lake now. But what if that lake is a man-made lake that's like on a skyscraper's rooftop. And then the ocean is right over here. So even though the fish is aware of the fish tank, and then it can escape that to go into the lake is not the end point. There's always a larger area of construction housing it. Same thing with fate and like reality or brain in the jar or simulation or whatever. And that's just a fun little tangent that can help make us less depressed over this very sad game. At least hopefully, that's my goal, is to have it be less depressing, because wow, I was not expecting it to be this sad. There's something going, that's something to talk to your doctor about, Elle. Or a mental health professional. Please be careful. Kate took her meds properly and it still hadn't had unexpected consequences. Make an appointment when you go home. I nod in agreement. I will. Good, I'll hold you to it. She sticks out her tongue playfully. Book that, and our next cheesecake date is on me. Another date? Maybe she is my type. It's a deal. Great. Also, I want to make a point. I don't think anxiety meds are why we met. I have to argue Fate's Kate. Well, good thing that you're arguing, because I just argued against it. Or I argued it doesn't really matter to have that conversation, really. I think there's a sign that we were meant to find each other. I just couldn't see it until now. What sign? It's going to be the blue rose. The bouquet of blue roses for Kate. They weren't there during her burial. Someone dropped them off afterwards. I don't follow. Well, the thing about blue roses is they're not a typical flower to leave at a grave all on their own. Usually you have an arrangement with all kinds of accents. Roses weren't something Kate liked either, but There's a local tradition behind blue roses. No one really remembers this kind of stuff anymore, except for florists in the region. It's a lost tradition. What's the tradition? In folklore, children would leave a single blue flower at the grave of their father. Blue roses became particularly popular because they weren't naturally occurring. The gesture symbolizes peace or serenity, depending on who you ask. My grandfather always told me that leaving a blue rose would help a father's spirit move on. Otherwise, they'd cling to this world to watch over their children. It grants the deceased an acceptance of their passing and allows their children to grieve. I'm certain that I was meant to find that rose. Your dad was meant to have it. Lucia's words at his graveside echo through my mind. I do have an idea if you want to leave him something meaningful. So that's what she meant. It seems more like a coincidence than anything. Still, I'm left with questions. I don't get your meaning. Why do you think the rose was fateful? It seems like someone dropped them off after Kate's service, that's all. I think you're wrong. Fate put those roses there for a reason, regardless of who brought them. You were meant to take part in that tradition for him. I feel frustration ebb into my voice. Yeah, but why? Why? It was the question that always haunted me. Why did my dad have to die? Why did Mom leave? Why was everything familiar gone in an instant? Lucia smiles with patience beyond her years, as if she's waiting for my realization. Why? Because your dad doesn't need to worry about you being alone anymore. I'm here now. I fumble, racing to organize my thoughts. Do you really mean that? Elle, that rose was waiting for us. He deserves to be at peace. You're not alone anymore. I'm not going anywhere, if you want me around. My tears threaten to overflow, but I crane my neck backwards to stop them. Deep breath in, deep breath out. When I look back to her, I can only bear to whisper my answer. I want you to stay. I will. For the first time since my dad died, I feel a bond. A new connection. A new social link unlocked. I don't want to lose her. You'll keep your promise, right? What did I promise? I grin at her. To text me once you drop me off. Lucia reaches for her phone and begins to tap away at the screen. Is she texting me right now? She gasps suddenly. Oh shoot! We need to go soon. It's getting pretty late. We are so in, Kaza. If we stay much longer, you're gonna miss your trick-or-treaters. You got that date with your leftover candy too. As much as I don't want to leave quite yet, I don't want to keep Lucia too late. We better go. I don't need kids egging my place. Plus, I don't want you missing that party. I think I'll skip out. It's been an interesting day. Well, I hope you find the energy to go out. Halloween is my favorite holiday. Mine too. And don't worry, I'm gonna send you pictures of my costume. I'm sure you'll love them. Oh! Pictures of the sexy costume. I can't help but bite at my lip. Looking forward to it. Lucia waves towards the waitress. Can we get the bill, please? I'll get that right away. The waitress glances towards our untouched plates. I'm sorry, was there something wrong with your cheesecake? No. We're in a bit of a rush, that's all. Could we get takeout boxes, please? Of course. So I'm glad I did the kind of like raspy voice for Elle because she is like a chronic smoker. Thanks for coming. Happy Halloween. With the bill paid, we cross the street and head to Lucia's car. I focus on giving Lucia directions to my neighborhood. I can't help but feel eager to get a box of Halloween decorations dusted off and onto my doorstep. I'm at number 235. Right here? Yeah, that's my place. Lucia pulls over and parks the car. As the engine switches off, I can't help but wonder what she's up to. I thought she'd just drop me off. Let me walk you to your door. Okay, apparently Lucia is the one who is so in. You don't have to do that. She giggles softly. Of course I do. This place is crawling with monsters. Little superheroes, princesses, and ghouls begin to trickle out into the streets, passing by houses without porch lights. I hurry up the steps and unlock my door. As I turn the key, I feel Lucia's eyes on my back. What? No goodbye? I stick out my tongue. Don't act so worried. I'm not ditching you just yet. I look back and pop the door open, hit the light switch, and watch as the dim orange glow flickers on. It looks like you get plenty of kids on this street. Oh, 100%, Kaza. Oh yeah, I rarely have leftover candy. That's too bad. I would have liked to steal some. You're lucky then. Why's that? I have a stash just for myself, and I might be willing to share. Doesn't that mean you'd have to make plans to see me again? I guess so. Lucia steps closer. I can smell the fresh remnants of pumpkin and espresso aroma swirling around her. Her gaze drifts down from my eyes and traces my lips. Oh my gosh. I like that. Is she? Boo! An eruption of laughter echoes from across the street. A group of trick-or-treaters were trying to scare their friends. Lucia adjusts the strap of her purse, clearly flustered. I've been thinking about our next date. I can't help but smile when she says date. You have? Yep. Maybe we could go with something casual? Coffee wasn't casual? I meant the topics. I'd love to know what your favorite music is or what your childhood pets were like. I want to know more about you. My heartbeat quickens. I like where you're going with this. With that, I can do simple. As long as you spill some details too. I want to hear all about your past. Ex-boyfriends, adventures, everything. Lucia begins to fidget again, this time with her necklace. Well, you won't have to worry about boyfriends. Because she's a flower gay. Meanwhile, Elle is a disaster bi. She seems anxious about the admission. That's a relief, no competition. I try my best to make her laugh, but all I get is a grin. Worth it. Do you like horror movies? Yes! Although I'm more into ghost stories. Slashers aren't my thing. Alright. Did you want to come over tomorrow night? Okay, Kaza. Developments have happened. We can eat candy and watch a haunted house film. Her eyes light up. I'd love to. Great. It's a plan. No, it's a date, Elle. Although, I do have one question for you. What is it? Should I expect flowers? Always. I guess I better buy a vase. Don't be silly. I can bring one. Lucia reaches into her purse and taps at her phone. It's getting late. I think I should head home. There's something else I wanted to say before you go. Okay. It's that if you do change your mind about us seeing each other again, it's okay. Why do you say that? Because meeting you was a blessing either way. You made me see myself so clearly. I used to think that I'd never make a step forward, that my grief hadn't changed. Today, you were a mirror into my past. I could finally see that I've been doing whatever I needed to. I'm growing, so blue roses and fade aside. You lost your sister this week. I'd rather you lean on me and not the other way around. I also want you to take as much time as you need before we see each other again. If you wake up tomorrow and can't get out of bed, that's natural. I'm not in a rush. I'll wait for when you're ready and to spend time together. Put yourself first. Lucia nods. Thank you for saying that. But just so you know, you can't get out of our date that easy. I expect chocolate bars and lollipops tomorrow night, or you're in big trouble. Good to know. I'll be ready. Lucia bites at her bottom lip absent-mindedly. I'm glad that I found you today. I can't wait to get to know you better. Lucia inches closer to me. Good night, Elle. Oh! Lucia wraps her arms around me in a warm embrace. I think you're an amazing person. Thank you for today. I smile. No, thank you. I'm glad that you found me, Lucia. I squeeze her tight. Good night. Well, wasn't that just a very fun little thing? No kiss, and I'm glad that they didn't kiss. They were like about to kiss, I could tell, but I'm glad that they didn't. Like when Lucia's like looking at Elle's lips, and it's just like, oh no, are they gonna kiss? U-Haul lesbian's real. I'm glad that they held off. No, this was so cute and actually like surprisingly heartwarming. Very fun. I am happy that I played this. Like, this is a game that I've been meaning to play for a while. I just never got around to it, and then I saw that it was set on Halloween. So I was like, well, obviously I have to play it for Halloween, because I was going to play some other horror-themed games, but... So I was going to play some other horror-themed games, and then I realized, like, either other people are all playing them, or they would take longer than one stream. So I'm glad I just got to play a cute little game that had emotional weight to it. And I just finally got to play this game because it's a game that I've just been meaning to play for over a year at this point. So glad that I got to play through it. Oh, this was a Game Jam game. Nice. That explains why there was so few choices. Oh, of no kiss? Because as cute as they are together, and as... Oh. As cute as Elle and Lucia are together, I do think that they trauma bonded. They bonded via their shared negative experiences, and by being vulnerable with one another and being able to connect on that front. That is not the basis of a healthy romantic relationship. That is the basis of a very healthy friendship. That is the basis of a very healthy, like intimate connection where you can rely on someone, where you can trust someone, but that is not romance. And so I think the decision of, well, now they're interested in one another, now they're flirting, now they want to pursue one another, but they haven't like kissed each other like a couple hours after meeting when all they did was trauma bond, shows a certain level of restraint where it's not insta love. It is like that by itself kind of implies that they're still building that connection, which outside of just like being more realistic also gives that punch of like, well, you can have two people who meet, they have really in-depth conversations for a couple hours, they go on a date, and then they kiss. Or you can have two people, they meet, they go on really in-depth conversations, they go on a date, they hug with plans to make a second date. Then they meet for a second date, then they do something more casual, more cutesy, more classic first date, and then there's the rising tension of, well, now they've already like skipped so many steps to get super emotionally intimate. Are they going to kiss? Is today going to be the day? And then a lot of the times, if they didn't kiss the first time, they probably won't kiss on the second date, because then suddenly the third date is something where it either goes wrong or there's some tension or conflict. And then the way to make that all worth it is that they finally kiss. And then not only is that it's not insta love, it's not them just making out as soon as they meet, it's also like rising tension leads to greater payoff, at least in my perspective. But golden morning light trickles across my windowsill. What a beautiful sunrise. For the first time that I can remember, I'm glad to see a new day. I snuggle under the covers to enjoy one last second of warmth. I sigh. Instead of angry words, anxious dreams, or dark cravings, there's only one thing on my mind. One person. Imagine her in the room with me. What would that be like? Maybe I'd make her pancakes. Yeah. Lucia's the dom. We could sit down for breakfast and chat the morning away. I bet she'd love a coffee. The fantasy warms the forgotten ice in my heart. Despite being alone, I want to say it. Good morning, Lucia. I'll see you soon. It's a promise to myself, one I intend to keep. See, like this is cute. This is, I am a damaged person who is going to help, who is going to develop through these difficult times and emotions with the support of someone else because I want to be better for them. Not, I am a broken person and love saved me. Kaza, you're also special. Oh. Oh, you can like read little journal segments. And also see all of the background and art. That's so nice. Now let's check this out. Dear future self, I know she wouldn't come back. I know she wouldn't come back. I knew it, and I tried to convince myself she was telling the truth regardless. I need a vacation, and you need a break. I'll be home soon. Turns out that was a load of bullshit. Mom could have pointed to a blue sky and announced that it was red, and I would have just nodded my head in agreement. What the fuck is wrong with me? She doesn't have to puppet me. I've always been beat and twisted myself to anticipate her every need. She called today and asked for her social. So I went into the filing cabinet and fetched it for her like a good daughter. When I asked why she needed it, I already knew the answer. Oh, her social security. Mom got an apartment 1,200 miles away, and her reason was simple. I'm protecting you. But after some questions, it changed. You're going to college. I'll be alone anyway. But then it transformed once more. You're too much to handle right now. Okay, great. That's all for now. I doubt she's calling again soon. She automated an allowance, so I won't starve or miss any bills. Bye. And then the artwork around it. Yes, here are her notes. Let's read. Yeah, the random eye drawing or like just drawing in the corner. Of course, the very symbolic eyes and mouth covered. Sword in the stone, it looks like. Grief isn't a low. It's a terrifying high atop a mountain I never climbed. How am I supposed to make my descent? I cling to the first step, soft palms already stained red. The steep cliffs terrify and welcome me. The temptation of flight beckons. That crash, an afterthought. I think to jump, but I'm already falling. No one even noticed. Oh, that's her standing at the mountain peak. Scribbled out her face. So I didn't get 2 of these. Interesting. Probably from saying no on a couple of the options of like not revealing stuff. Oh, right. Because like the anchor line. An anchor to cling to. At the bottom of this ocean, my soles bleed on bedrock as I grip this chain. I'll drag myself to the surface. There may be no light, but there is air. I will gulp it greedily. I'm not gonna lie, some of this is kind of hitting just because like when I went through a very dark period in my life, I also like was writing a bunch of poetry, and it was also very edgy, but it was very cathartic. What the fuck was last night? I used to think movies were playing it up. I rolled my eyes when characters would throw their blankets and scream themselves awake. It seemed exaggerated. Last night I clenched my fists so tight that my nails tore through my palms. It's a good thing I have dark bedding. No bloodstains. At least I'm a quick thinker. It's fixed now. Trimmed nails, sleeping pills, no more problems. The real monsters come out to play. The darkness under my bed found the bottom of the bottle. I want a deeper sleep where the dreams can't find me. I can't see Daddy anymore. He's torn up, blurred, rotten. Memories were a gift that the pain stole away. I didn't want to erase these memories. I dug so deep searching for him that I clawed my way into a world of nightmares. I reach for the flavors that taste like death and wonder when it will come to visit. A fiery inhale, an ashy exhale. Flood my lungs with moonlight and build these walls. I miss the bitter kiss of codeine on my tongue. It used to make my heart numb. It's a pretty kind of poison when I crush it with these memories. I haven't found anything strong enough to erase this overdose on missing you. I don't want to wish you away, but I can't stand to remember. Midnight hasn't blurred these ghosts. You can't be forgotten, but this stranger's sheets can hide me away for a while. I'm the only one that knows I'm here. We love poor coping mechanisms. Just kidding, no we don't. Well, so that was Graveyard Girls, which was pretty fun. I'm not gonna lie. I had a good time with it. And that has been 2.5 hours. I thought it was only gonna be like an hour. Drinking my water. So I have another game that says it's going to take like half an hour, and it says it's listed as survival horror, Though I am also thinking I could just go straight into Edgar Allan Poe. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to load up this other game that I have, which should only take like under an hour. It says it's listed as survival horror. I don't know what all of this is. This master volume. Okay. And let's go to here. This is a game called Medusa's Labyrinth. I know nothing about it other than it's apparently really short and it's listed as survival horror. So it's like a FPS, I think. I have no idea. I'm just gonna hop in and see how it goes. Mighty Poseidon, Lord of the Black Sea depths, whirling dark and deep, whose will shapes the current of fate, save thy servant, break open the earth, and let sweep waters spring forth. Pull me with the tide, grant me safe harbor at last. Oh, game just crashed. Okay. Alright, take two. Pull me with the tide, grant me safe harbor at last, and shield me from the storm that approaches. I am the storm that is approaching, provoking. Sorry. Am I alive? This is me. Huh? So I can jump. You can interact with highlighted objects by hovering over them and pressing left mouse. Aliona, part 1 of 8. Father told me he had great news today, but he did not sound pleased. He said I had been chosen, that I was to serve the temple as an oracle. I've always felt like I did not belong in the kitchens, but Mother never let me see anything else. Dirty pans and pots all day. I prayed to him, and now my God has answered. Why can't Father be happy for me? The game crashed again. I'm going to give this one more attempt. I'm going to give it one more attempt. And if it crashes again, then I'm just going to go straight over to reading. Well, good night, Kaza. Thank you for swinging by. Thank you for enjoying the Yuri. Okay. So we are playing a game that I know nothing about. I assume it wants me to go up there, so I'm going to go over here instead. Aha. Oh, it's not letting me go there. Understood. The moon is giant. Heads up. That if anyone has seen Bruce Almighty, that means that the tides are going crazy right now. I see why you're praying for Poseidon to protect you. Okay. So that game seems very poorly optimized because it has just crashed 3 times. That might be my fault. That might be my device's fault, but doesn't really matter at this point. So what I'm going to do is this is another one where YouTube chats. Bump, bump. I am going to read some Edgar Allan Poe. I was gonna play that game just to give my voice a rest, but I figure I can just spend the next half hour reading some Edgar Allan Poe. I did choose to stream on YouTube today, of all days, which was probably not the wisest choice because now I can't raid into anyone. However, I think what I'm going to do is I'm I'm just going to probably record as I read and then upload these as snippets. Just because, hey, why not? So, what I'm going to do, we are going to start with, let me grab text. My apologies. Let me grab text. And this is going to say Edgar Allan Poe. So we're going to start off with The Raven, because of course we are. I'll just put you where chat is because this isn't really a chat engagement time. Let me I want to align center. And we are going to choose. Okay. All right. Drink some water. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious forgotten... Wait. I immediately fumbled. Okay. The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore. While I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. Only this, and nothing more. Ah, distinctly I remember it was the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I had sought to borrow from my books surcease? I've never heard this word before. From my books surcease of sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels named Lenore, nameless here forevermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before, so that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. Some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. That is it, nothing more." Presently, my soul grew stronger, hesitantly no longer. "Sir," said I, "or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore, but the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure to hear you. Here I opened wide the door. Darkness there, and nothing more. Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word, "Lenore?" This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, "Lenore." Merely this, and nothing more. Back into the chamber turning, all my soul within me burning, soon again I heard a tapping somewhere louder than before. "Surely," said I, "surely this is something at my window lattice. Let me see, then, what there that is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind, and nothing more." Open here I flung the shutter, when, with many a flit and flutter, in there stepped a stately raven on the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mine of lord or lady perched above my chamber door, perched upon a bust of Pallas just above. This is so difficult. Perched upon a bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, perched and sat, and nothing more. Then this ebony bird beguiling my sad fancy into smiling by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore, though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou, I said, art sure no craven, ghastly grim and ancient raven, wandering from the nightly shore, tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore. Quoth the Naven, raven more. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Much I marveled this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevancy bore. For we cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever yet was blessed with seeing bird upon his chamber door, bird or beast upon the sculpted bust above his chamber door, with such a name as nevermore. But the raven, sitting lonely on the placid bust, spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word he did outpour. Nothing further than he uttered, not a feather than he Nothing further than he uttered, not a feather than he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, other friends have flown before. On the morrow he will leave, as my hopes have flown before. Then the bird said, nevermore. Startled at the stillness broken by reply so aptly spoken, doubtless, said I, what it utters is its only stock and store, caught from some unhappy master whom unmerciful disaster followed fast and followed faster till his songs one burden bore, till the dirges of his hope that melancholy burden bore of nevermore. But the raven still beguiling all my fancy into smiling, straight I wheeled a cushioned seat in front of bird and bust and door. Then, upon the velvet sinking, I betook myself to linking fancy unto fancy, thinking what this ominous bird of yore, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of yore meant in croaking, nevermore. This I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing, to the fowl whose fiery This I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing, to the fowl whose fiery eyes now burned into my bosom's core. This and more I sat divining, with my head at ease reclining, on the cushion's velvet lining that the lamp lighted gloated o'er. But whose velvet violet lining with the lamp lighting gloating o'er, she shall press, nevermore. Then methought, the air grew denser, perfumed from an unseen censer, swung by seraphim whose footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor. Wretch, I cried, thy God hath lent thee, by these angels he hath sent thee, respite and nepenthe for thy memories of Lenore. Quaff, oh quaff this kind nepenthe, and forget this lost Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil! Prophet still if bird or devil, whether tempter sent, or whether tempest tossed thee here ashore, desolate yet all undaunted, on this desert land enchanted, on this home by horror haunted. Let me truly, I implore, is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, by the heaven that bends above us, by the God we both adore, tell this soul with sorrow laden, if, within the distant Aden, it shall clasp a sainted maiden, whom the angels name Lenore, clasp a rare and radiant maiden, whom the angels name Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Be that word or signing in parting, bird or fiend, I shrieked, upstarting, get thee back into the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black plume as a token of that lie Leave no black plume as a token of that lie thy soul hath spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken. Quit the bust above my door. Take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy form from off my door. Quoth the raven, nevermore. And the raven, never flitting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, and his eyes have all the seeming of a demon that is dreaming, and the lamplight o'er him streaming through his shadows on the floor, and my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the door shall be lifted nevermore. Goodness gracious. It's such a silly cadence to it, but as soon as you like get into it, it's so much fun to read. The issue is I'm doing all of these blind, so I was just completely stumbling. Very fun. All right. Next up, so that was poetry. That was the Raven. What I'm going to do is I'm going to swap on over to the Mask of Red Death. So there is a quatrain preceding it that I believe is in Latin, which I do not speak, so I will not attempt to pronounce it. The Mask of Red Death. I was sick unto death with that long agony, and when they are at length unbound me, and I was permitted to sit, I felt that my senses were leaving me. The sentence, the dread of death, was that last of distinct accentuation which reached my ears. After that, the sound of the inquisitorial voices seemed merged in one dreamy, indeterminate hum. It conveyed to my soul the idea of revolution, perhaps from its association in fancy with the burr of a mill wheel. This only for a brief period, for presently I heard no more. Yet, for a while I saw, but with how terrible an exaggeration, I saw the lips of the black-robed judges. They appeared to me whiter than the sheet upon which I traced these words, and thin even to grotesqueness, thin with the intensity of their expression of firmness, of immovable resolution, of stern contempt of human torture. I saw the decree. Oh, sorry. This is The Pit and the Pendulum. Whoops. I am very normal. Yeah, as soon as I saw it was talking about torture, I was just like, this seems less like a 1800s super rich party and more like someone who just got escaped from a pit with a pendulum. They appeared to me whiter than the sheet upon which I traced these words, and thin even to grotesqueness, thin with the intensity of their expression of firmness, of immovable resolution, of stern contempt of human torture. I saw that the decrees of what to me were fate were still issuing from those lips. I saw them writhe with a deadly locution. I saw them fashion the syllables of my name, and I shuddered because no sound succeeded. I saw, too, for a few moments of delirious horror, the soft and nearly imperceptible waving of the sable draperies which enwrapped the walls of the apartment. And then my vision fell upon the 7 tall candles upon the table. At first, they wore the aspect of charity and seemed white and slender angels who would save me. But then, all at once, there came a most deadly nausea over my spirit, and I felt every fiber in my frame thrill as if I had touched the wire of a galvanic battery, while the angel forms became meaningless specters with heads of flame, and I saw that from there would be no help. And then there stole into my fancy, like a rich musical note, the thought of what sweet rest there must be in the grave. The thought came gently and stealthily, and it seemed long before it attained full appreciation. But just as my spirit came at length properly to feel and entertain it, the figures of the judges vanished, as if magically, from before me. The tall candles sank into nothingness, their flames went out utterly, the blackness of darkness supervened. All sensations appeared swallowed up in a mad rushing descent as of the soul into Hades. Then silence and stillness and night were the universe. I had swooned, but still will not say that all consciousness was lost. What of it I remembered, I will not attempt to define or even to describe, yet all was not lost. In the deepest slumber, no. In delirium, no. In a swoon, no. In death, no. Even in the grave, all is not lost. Else there is no immortality for man. Arousing from the most profound of slumbers, we break the gossamer web of some dream. Yet, in a second afterward, so frail may that web have been, we remember not that we have dreamed. In the return to life from the swoon, there are two stages. First, that of the sense of mental or spiritual. Secondly, that of the sense of physical existence. It seems probable that if, upon reaching the second stage, we could recall the impressions of the first, we should find these impressions eloquent in memories of the gulf beyond. And that gulf is what? How, at least, shall we distinguish its shadows from those of the tomb? But if the impressions of what I have termed the first stage are not, at will, recalled yet, after long interval, do they not come unbidden, while we marvel whence they come? He who has never swooned is not he who finds strange palaces and wildly familiar faces and coals that glow, is not he who beholds floating in midair the sad visions that the many may not view, is not he who ponders over the perfume of some novel flower, is not he whose brain grows bewildered with the meaning of some musical cadence which has never been arrested his attention. Amid frequent and thoughtful endeavors to remember, amidst earnest struggling to regather some token of the state of seeming nothingness into which my soul has lapsed, there have been moments when I have dreamed of success. There have been brief, very brief periods when I have conjured up remembrances which the lucid reason of a later epoch assures me could have had reference only to that condition of seeming unconsciousness. These shadows of a memory tell, indistinctly, of tall figures that lifted and bore me in silence down, still down, till a hideous dizziness oppressed me at the mere idea of the interminableness of the descent. They tell also of a vague horror at my heart, on account of that heart's unnatural stillness. Then comes a sense of sudden motionlessness throughout all things, as if those who bore me, a ghastly train, had outrun, in their descent, the limits of the limitless, and paused from the wearisomeness of their toil. After this, I call to mind flatness and dampness, and then all is madness, the madness of a memory which busies itself among forbidden things. Very suddenly, there came back to my soul motion and sound, the tumultuous motion of the heart, and in my ears the sound of its beating. Then a pause in which all is blank. Then again sound and motion and touch, a tingling sensation pervading my frame. Then the mere consciousness of existence, without thought, a condition which lasted long. Then, very suddenly, thought and shuddering terror, an earnest endeavor to comprehend my true state. Then a strong desire to lapse into insensibility. Then a rushing revival of soul and a successful effort to move. And now a full memory of the trial, of the judges, of the sable draperies, of the sentence, of the sickness, of the swoon, then entire forgetfulness of all that followed. Of all that a later day and much earnestness of endeavor have enabled me vaguely to recall. So far, I had not opened my eyes. I felt that I lay upon my back, unbound. I reached out my hand, and it fell heavily upon something damp and hard. There I suffered it to remain for many minutes, where I strove to imagine where and what I could be. I longed, yet dared not to employ my vision. I dreaded the first glance at objects around me. It was not that I feared to look upon things horrible, but that I grew aghast lest there should be nothing to see. At length, with a wild desperation in my heart, I quickly unclosed my eyes. My worst thoughts then were confirmed. The blackness of eternal night encompassed me. I struggled for breath. The intensity of the darkness seemed to oppress and stifle me. The atmosphere was intolerably close. I still lay quietly and made efforts to exercise my reason. I brought to mind the inquisitorial proceedings and attempted from the point to deduce my real condition. The sentence had passed, and it appeared to me that a very long interval of time had since elapsed. Yet, not for a moment did I suppose myself actually dead. Such a supposition, notwithstanding what we read in fiction, is altogether inconsistent with real existence. But where and in what state was I? The condemned to death I knew perished usually at the auto de fe, and one of those had been held on the very night of the day of my trial. Had I been remanded to my dungeon to await the next sacrifice, which would not take place for many months? This I at once saw could not be. Victims had been in immediate demand. Moreover, my dungeon, as well as all the condemned cells at Toledo, had stone floors, and light was not altogether excluded. A fearful idea now suddenly drove the blood in torrents upon my heart, and for a brief period I once more relapsed into insensibility. Upon recovering, I at once started to my feet, trembling convulsively in every fiber. I thrust my arms wildly above and around me in all directions. I felt nothing, yet dreaded to move a step lest I should be impeded by the walls of a tomb. Perspiration burst from every pore and stood in cold big beads upon my forehead. The agony of suspense grew at length intolerable, and I cautiously moved forward, with my arms extended and my eyes straining from their sockets in the hope of catching some faint ray of light. I proceeded for many paces, but still all was blackness and vacancy. I breathed more freely. It seemed evident that mine was not, at least, the most hideous of fates. And now, as I still continued to step cautiously onward, there came thronging upon my recollection of 1,000 vague rumors of the horrors of Toledo. Of the dungeons there had been strange things narrated, fables I had always deemed them, but yet strange and too ghastly to repeat, save in a whisper. Was I to perish of starvation in this subterranean world of darkness? Hey, yo, the world of darkness, nice! Or what fate, perhaps even more fearful, awaited me? That the result would be death, and a death more than customary bitterness, I knew too well the character of my judges to doubt. The mode and the hour were all that occupied or distracted me. My outstretched hands at length encountered some solid obstruction. It was a wall, seemingly of stone masonry, very smooth, slimy, and cold. I followed it up, stepping with all the careful distrust with which certain antique narratives had inspired me. This process, however, afforded me no means of ascertaining the dimensions of my dungeon, as I might make its circuit and return to the point where I once set out, without being aware of the fact, so perfectly uniform seemed the wall. I therefore sought the knife which had been in my pocket, which led into the inquisitorial chamber, but it was gone. My clothes had been exchanged for a wrapper of a coarse serge. I had thought of forcing the blade in some minute crevice of the masonry so as to identify my point of departure. The difficulty, nonetheless, was but trivial. Although, in the disorder of my fancy, it seemed at first insuperable. I tore at part of the hem of my robe and placed the fragment at full length, and at right angles to the wall. In groping my way around the prison, I could not fail to encounter this rag upon completing the circuit. So, at least I thought, but I had not counted upon the extent of the dungeon, or upon my own weakness. The ground was moist and slippery. I staggered onward for some time, when I stumbled and fell. My excessive fatigue induced me to remain prostrate, and sleep soon overtook me as I lay. Upon awakening, and stretching forth my arm, I found beside me a loaf and a pitcher with water. I was too much exhausted to reflect upon this circumstance, but ate and drank with avidity. Shortly afterward, I resumed my tour around the prison, and with much toil came at last upon the fragment of the serge. Up to the period when I fell, I had counted 52 paces, and upon resuming my walk, I had counted 48 more. When I arrived at the rag, there were in all, then, 100 paces, and admitting 2 paces to the yard, I had presumed the dungeon to be 50 yards in circuit. I had met, however, with many angles in the wall, and thus I could form no guesses at the shape of the vault, for vault I could not help supposing it to be. I had little object, certainly no help, these researchers. I had little object, certainly no hope these researchers, but a vague curiosity prompted me to continue them. Researches, not researchers. Yeah, I was like, what is this, the SCP Foundation? Quitting the wall, I resolved to cross the area of the enclosure. At first, I proceeded with extreme caution, for the floor, although seemingly of solid material, was treacherous with slime. At length, however, I took courage and did not hesitate to step firmly, endeavoring to cross in as direct a line as possible. I had advanced some 10 or 12 paces in this manner when the remnant of the torn hem of my robe became entangled between my legs. I stepped on it and fell violently on my face. Poe has some great humor, I must say. A cask of Amontillado, very funny. And the slapstick of Pit and the Pendulum just falling flat on his face. In the confusion attending my fall, I did not immediately apprehend a somewhat startling circumstance which, yet, in a few seconds afterward, and while I still lay prostrate, arrested my attention. It was this. My chin rested upon the floor of the prison, but my lips and the upper portion of my head, although seemingly at a less elevation than the chin, touched nothing. At the same time, my forehead seemed bathed in a clammy vapor, and the peculiar smell of decayed fungus arose to my nostrils. I put forward my arm and shuddered to find that I had fallen at the very brink of a circular pit, whose extent, of course, I had no means of ascertaining at the moment. Groping about the masonry just below the margin, I succeeded in dislodging a small fragment and let it fall into the abyss. For many seconds, I hearkened to its reverberations as it dashed against the sides of the chasm in its descent. At length, there was a sullen plunge into water, succeeded by loud echoes. At the same moment, there came a sound resembling the quick opening and as rapid closing of a door overhead, while a faint gleam of light flashed through the... At the same moment, there came a sound resembling the quick opening and as rapid closing of a door overhead, while a faint gleam of light flashed suddenly through the gloom, and as suddenly faded away. I saw clearly the doom which had been prepped for me, and congratulated myself upon the timely accident by which I had escaped. Another step before my fall, and the world had seen me no more. And the death just avoided was of that very character which I had regarded as fabulous and frivolous in the tales respecting the Inquisition. To the victims of its tyranny, there was the choice of death with its direct physical agonies, or death by which its most hideous moral horrors. I had been reserved for the latter. By long suffering, my nerves had been unstrung until I trembled at the sound of my own voice, and had become in every respect a fitting subject for the species of torture which awaited me. Shaking in every limb, I groped my way back to the wall, resolving here to perish rather than risk the terrors of the wells, of which my imagination now pictured many in various positions about the dungeon. In other conditions of mind, I might have had courage to end my misery at once by a plunge into one of these abysses. But now I was the veriest of cowards. Neither could I forget what I had read of these pits, that the sudden extinction of life formed no part of their most horrible plan. Agitation of my spirit kept me awake for many long hours, but at length I again slumbered. Upon arousing, I found by my side, as before, a loaf and a pitcher of water. A burning thirst consumed me, and I emptied the vessel at a draught. It must have been drugged, for scarcely had I drunk before I became irresistibly drowsy. A deep sleep fell upon me, a sleep like that of death. How long it lasted, of course, I knew not. But when, once again, I unclosed my eyes, the objects around me were visible. By a wild, sulphurous luster, the origin of which I could not at first determine, I was enabled to see the extent and aspect of the prison. In its size, I had been greatly mistaken. The whole circuit of its walls did not exceed 25 yards. For some minutes, this fact occasioned me a world of vain trouble. Vain indeed! For what could be of less importance, under the terrible circumstances which environed me, than the mere dimensions of my dungeon? But my soul took a wild interest in trifles, and I busied myself in endeavors to account for the error I had committed in my measurement. The truth at length flashed upon me. In my first attempt at exploration, I had counted 52 paces up until the period where I fell. I must then have been within a pace or two of the fragment of my surge. In fact, I had nearly performed the circuit of the vault. I then slept, and upon awakening, I must have returned upon my steps, thus supposing the circuit nearly doubled when it actually was. My confusion of mind prevented me from observing that I began my tour with the wall to the left and ended with the wall to the right. Oh, Poe, you're so silly. I had been deceived too in respect to the shape of the enclosure. In feeling my way, I had found so many angles and thus deduced an idea of great irregularity. So potent is the effect of total darkness upon one arousing from lethargy or sleep. The angles were simply those of a few slight depressions or niches at odd intervals. The general shape of the prison was square. What I had taken for masonry seemed now to be iron or some other metal, and huge plates whose sutures or joints occasioned their depression. The entire surface of this metallic enclosure was rudely daubed in all the hideous and repulsive devices to which the charnel superstition of the monks had given rise. The figures of fiends and aspects of menace, with skeletal forms and other more really fearful images, overspread and disfigured the walls. I observed that the outlines of these monstrosities were sufficiently distinct, but that the colors seemed faded and blurred, as if from the effects of the damp atmosphere. I now noticed that the floor, too, which was of stone, in the center yawned the circular pit from whose jaws I had escaped, but it was the only one in the dungeon. All this I saw indistinctly and by much effort, for my personal condition had been greatly changed during slumber. I now lay upon my back, and at full length, on a species of low framework wood. To this I was securely bound by a long strap resembling a surcingle? What the heck? Surcingle. Surcingle. It passed in many convolutions about my limbs and body, and leaving at liberty only my head and my left arm to such extent that I could, by dint of much exertion, supply myself with food from an earthen dish which lay by my side on the floor. I saw, to my horror, that the pitcher had been removed. I say to my horror, for I was consumed with intolerable thirst. This thirst it appeared to be the design of my persecutors to simulate, for the food in the dish was a meat pungently seasoned. Looking upwards, for I was consumed with an intolerable thirst. This thirst it appeared to be the design of my persecutors to stimulate, for the food in the dish was meat pungently seasoned. Looking upward, I surveyed the ceiling of my prison. It was some 30 or 40 feet overhead and constructed much as the side walls. In one of its panels, a very singular figure riveted my whole attention. It was the painted figure of Time, as he is commonly represented, save that, in lieu of a scythe, he held what, at a casual glance, I supposed to be pictured image of a huge pendulum, such as we see on antique clocks. There was something, however, in the appearance of this machine which caused me to regard it more attentively. While I gazed directly upward at it, for its position was immediately over my own, I fancied that I saw it in motion. In an instant afterward, that fancy was confirmed. Its sweep was brief, and of course slow. I watched it for some minutes, somewhat in fear, but more in wonder. Wearied at length with observing its dull movement, I turned my eyes upon the other objects in the cell. A slight noise attracted my notice, and looking to the floor, I saw several enormous rats traversing it. They had issued from the well, which lay just within view to my right. Even then, while I gazed, they came upon in troops, hurriedly, with ravenous eyes, allured by the scent of meat. From this, it required much effort and attention to scare them away. It might have been half an hour, perhaps an hour, for I could take but imperfect note of the time, before I again cast my eyes upward. What I then saw confounded and amazed me. The sweep of the pendulum had increased in extent by nearly a yard. As a natural consequence, its velocity was also much greater. But what mainly disturbed me was the idea that had perceptibly descended. I now observed, with what horror it is needless to say, that its neither extremity was formed of a crescent of glittering steel, that its nether extremity was formed of a crescent of glittering steel, about a foot in length from horn to horn, the horns upward, and the under edge evidently as keen as that of a razor. Like a razor also, it seemed massy and heavy, tapering from the edge into a solid and broad structure above. It was appended to a weighty rod of brass, and the whole hissed as it swung through the air. I could no longer doubt the doom prepared for me by monkish ingenuity in torture. My cognizance of the pit had been known to the inquisitorial agents, the pit whose horrors had been destined for so bold a recusant as myself, the pit typical of hell and regarded by rumors as the ultima thule of all their punishments, the plunge into the pit I had avoided by the merest of accidents. I knew that surprise, or entrapment into torment, formed an important portion of all the grotescature of these dungeon depths. Having failed to fall, it was no part of the demon plan to hurl me into the abyss, and thus, there being no alternative, a different and milder destruction awaited me. Milder! I half smiled in my agony as I thought of such application of such a term. What boots it to tell of the long, long hours of horror more than mortal, during which I counted the rushing vibrations of the steel, inch by inch, line by line, with a descent only appreciable at intervals that seemed ages, down and still down it came. Days passed, it might have been that many days passed, ere it swept so closely over me as to fan me with its acrid breath. The odor of the sharp steel forced itself into my nostrils. I prayed, I wearied heaven with my prayer for its more speedy descent. I grew frantically mad and struggled to force myself upward against the sweep of the fearful scimitar, and then I fell suddenly calm, and lay smiling at the glittering death as a child at some rare bauble. There was another interval of utter insensibility. It was brief, for upon again lapsing into life, there had been no perceptible descent in the pendulum, but it might have been long, for I knew there were demons who took note of my swoon, and who could have arrested the vibrations at pleasure. Upon my recovery, too, I felt very, inexpressibly sick and weak, as if through long inanition. Expressibly sick and weary, as though through long inanition. Even amid the agonies of that period, the human nature craved food. With painful effort, I outstretched my left arm as far as my bonds permitted, and took possession of the small remnants of what had been spared me by the rats. As I put a portion of it within my lips, there rushed to my mind a half-formed thought of joy, of hope. Yet what business had I with hope? It was, as I say, a half-formed thought. Man has many such which are never completed. I felt that it was a joy of hope, but felt also that it had perished in its formation. In vain I struggled to perfect, to regain it. Long suffering had nearly annihilated all my ordinary powers of mind. I was an imbecile, an idiot. The vibration of the pendulum was at right angles to my length. I saw that the crescent was designed to cross the reach of the heart. It would fray the serge of my robe. It would return and repeat its operations again and again, notwithstanding terrifically wide sweep, some 30 feet or more, and the hissing vigor of its descent, sufficient to sunder these very iron walls. Still the fraying of my robe would be all that, for several minutes, it would accomplish. And at this thought, I paused. I dare not go further than this reflection. I dwelt upon it with a pertinacity of attention, as if, in so dwelling, I could arrest here the descent of the steel. I forced myself to ponder upon the sound of the crescent as it should pass upon the garment, upon the peculiar thrilling sensation which the friction of cloth produces on the nerves. I pondered upon all this frivolity until my teeth were on edge. Down, steadily down it crept. I took a frenzied pleasure in contrasting its downward with its lateral velocity, to the right, to the left, far and wide, with the shriek of a damned spirit, to my heart with the stealthily pace of the tiger. I alternately laughed and howled as the one or the other idea grew predominant. Down, certainly relentlessly down. It vibrated within 3 inches of my bosom. I struggled violently, furiously, to free my left arm. This was free only from the elbow to the hand. I could reach the ladder, from the platter beside me to my mouth, with great effort, but no farther. Could I have broken the fastenings above the elbow, I would have seized and attempted to arrest the pendulum. I might as well have attempted to arrest an avalanche. Down, still unceasingly, still inevitably down. I gasped and struggled at each vibration. I shrunk convulsively at its every sweep. My eyes followed it outward and upward, whirls with the eagerness of the most unmeaning despair. They closed themselves spasmodically at the descent, although death would have been a relief. Oh, how unspeakable. Still, I quivered in every nerve to think of how slight a sinking of the machinery would precipitate that keen, glistening axe upon my bosom. It was hope that prompted the nerve to quiver, the frame to shrink. It was hope, the hope that triumphs on the rack, that whispers the death condemned even in the dungeons of the Inquisition. I saw that some 10 or 12 vibrations would bring the steel in actual contact with my robe, and with this observation where suddenly came over my spirit all the keen, collected calmness of despair. For the first time during many hours, or perhaps days, I thought. It now occurred to me that the bandage or surcingle which enveloped me was unique. I was tied by no separate cord. The first stroke of the razor-like crescent athwart any position of the band would so detach it that it might be unwound from my person by means of my left hand. But how fearful in that case, the proximity of the steel, the result of the slightest struggling, how deadly. Was it likely, moreover, that the minions of the torturer had not foreseen and provided for this possibility? Was it probable that the bandage crossed my bosom in the track of the pendulum? Was it dreading to find my faint, and, as it seemed, in last hope frustrated, I so far elevated my head as to obtain a distinct view of my breast? The surcingle enveloped my limbs and body close in all directions, save in the path of the destroying crescent. Scarcely had I dropped my head back into its original position, when there flashed upon my mind what I cannot better describe than as the unformed half of the idea of deliverance to which I have previously alluded, and of which a myriad of only floated indeterminately through my brain when I raised food to my burning lips. The whole thought was now present, feeble, scarcely sane, scarcely definite, but still entire. I proceeded at once, with the nervous energy of despair, to attempt its execution. For many hours, the immediate vicinity of the lower framework upon which I lay had been literal swarming with rats. They were wild, bold, ravenous, their red eyes glaring upon me as if they waited but for motionless on my part to make me their prey. To what food, I thought, have they been accustomed in the well? They had devoured, in spite of all my efforts to prevent them, all but a small remnant of the contents of the dish. I had fallen into a habitual seesaw, or wave of the hand around the platter, and, at length, the unconscious uniformity of the movements deprived it of its effect. In their voracity, the vermin frequently fastened their sharp fangs in my fingers, with the particles of the oily and spicy viand which now remained. I thoroughly rubbed the bandage wherever I could reach it. Then, raising my hand from the floor, I lay breathlessly still. At first, the ravenous animals were startled and terrified at the change, at the cessation of movement. They shrank alarmedly back. Many sought the well, but this was only for a moment. I had not counted in vain upon their voracity. Observing that I remained without motion, one or two of the boldest leaped upon the framework and smelt it at the surgical. This seemed the signal for the general rush. Forth from their well they hurried in flesh troops. They clung to the wood, they overran it, and leaped in hundreds upon my person. The measured movement of the pendulum disturbed them not at all. Avoiding its strokes, they busied themselves with the anointed bandage. They pressed, they swarmed upon me in ever-accentuated heaps. They writhed upon my throat, their cold lips sought my own. I was half stifled by their thronging pressure. Disgust, for which the world had no name, swelled my bosom and chilled with heavy clamminess my heart. Yet 1 minute, and I felt that struggle would be over. Plainly, I perceived the loosening of the bandage. I knew that in more than one place it must already be severed. With a more than human resolution, I lay still. Nor had I erred in my calculation, nor had I endured in vain. I at length felt that I was free. The surcingle hung in ribbons from my body, but the stroke of the pendulum already pressed upon my bosom. It had divided the surge of the rope. I had cut through the linen beneath. It had cut through the linen beneath. Twice again it swung, and a sharp sense of pain shot through my every nerve. But the moment of escape had arrived. At a wave of my hand, my deliverers hurried tumultuously away. With a steady movement, cautious, sidelong, shrinking and slow, I slid from the embrace of the bandage and beyond the reach of the scimitar. For the moment, at least, I was free. Free! And in the grasp of the Inquisition. I had scarcely stepped from my wooden bed of horror upon the stone floor of the prison when the motion of the hellish when the motion of the hellish machine ceased and I beheld it drawn upon by some invisible force through the ceiling. This was a lesson which I took desperately to heart. My every motion was undoubtedly watched. Free, I had but escaped death in one form of agony to be delivered onto worse than death in some other. Free, I had but escaped death in one form of agony to be delivered unto death worse than death. What? Goodness. I don't think I'm reading more than this. It's been like an hour of me just reading this one, taking way more than I was expecting. Free, I had but escaped death in one form of agony to be delivered unto worse than death in some other. With that thought, I rolled my eyes nervously on the barriers of iron that hemmed me in. Something unusual, some change which, at first, I could not appreciate distinctly. It was obvious had taken place in the apartment. For many minutes of a dreamy and trembling abstraction, I busied myself in vain, unconnected conjecture. During this period, I became aware, for the first time, of the origin of the sulphurous light which illuminated the cell. It proceeded from a fissure about half an inch in width, extending entirely around the prison at the base of the walls, which thus appeared and were completely separated from the floor. I endeavored, but of course in vain, to look through the aperture. As I arose from the attempt, the mystery of the alteration in the chamber broke at once upon my understanding. I have observed that, although the outlines of the figures upon the walls were sufficiently distinct, yet the colors seemed blurred and indefinite. These colors had now assumed, and were momentarily assuming, a startling and most intense brilliancy that gave to the most spectral and fiendish portraitures an aspect that which might have thrilled even firmer nerves than my own. Demon eyes, of a wild and ghastly vivacity, glared upon me in 1,000 directions, where none had been visible before, and gleamed with the lurid luster of a fire that I could not force my imagination to regard as unreal. Unreal! Even while I breathed, there came to my nostrils the breath of the vigor of heated iron. A suffocating odor pervaded in the prison. A deeper glow settled each moment in the eyes that glared at my agonies. A richer tint of crimson diffused itself over the pictured horrors of blood. I panted. I gasped for breath. There could be no doubt of the design of my tormentors. Oh, most unrelenting. Oh, most demonic of men. I shrank from the glowing metal to the center of the cell. Amid the thought of the fiery destruction that impeded, the idea of the coolness of the well came over my soul like a balm. I rushed to its deadly brink. I threw my straining vision below. The glare from the enkindled roof illuminated its innermost recesses. Yet for a wild moment did my spirit refuse to comprehend the meaning of what I saw. At length it wrestled its way into my soul. It burned itself in upon my shuddering reason. Oh, for a voice to speak. Oh, horror. Oh, any horror but this. With a shriek, I rushed from the margin and buried my face in my hands, weeping bitterly. The heat rapidly increased, and once again I looked up, shuddering as with a fit of the ague. A-G-U-E? Ague? Shuddering as with the fit of the ague. The heat rapidly increased, and once again I looked up, shuddering as with a fit of the ague. There had been a second change in the cell, and now the change was obviously in the form. As before, it was in vain that I, at first, endeavored to appreciate or understand what was taking place, but not long was I left in doubt. The inquisitorial vengeance had been hurried by my twofold escape, and there was to be no more dallying with the king of terrors. The room had been square. I saw the two of its iron angles were now acute, two consequently obtuse. The fearful difference quickly increased with a low rumbling or moaning sound. In an instant, the apartment had shifted its form into that of a lozenge. But the alteration stopped not here. I neither hoped nor desired it to stop. I could have clasped the red walls to my bosom as a garment of eternal peace. Death, I said, any death but that of the pit. Fool, might I have not known that into the pit it was the object of the burning iron to urge me? Could I resist its glow? Or, if even that, could I withstand its pressure? And now, flatter and flatter grew the lozenge with a rapidity that left me no time for contemplation. Its center, and of course its greatest width, came just over the yawning gulf. I shrank back, but the closing walls pressed me relentlessly onward. At length, For my seared and writhing body, there was no longer an inch of foothold on the firm floor of the prison. I struggled no more, but the agony of my soul found vent in one long and final scream of despair. I felt that I tottered upon the brink. I averted my eyes. There was a discordant hum of human voices. There was a loud blast as of many trumpets. There was a harsh grating as of 1,000 thunders. The fiery walls rushed back. An outstretched arm caught my own as I fell, fainting into the abyss. It was at that of General Lasalle. The French army had entered Toledo. The Inquisition was in the hands of its enemies. It means a chill, apparently, and it said ague. That makes sense. Also, hello, welcome on in. Yeah, I saw this. I saw this short story and I'm like, wow, this doesn't seem that long. I've been reading this like for an hour. Ague. But yes, the heat rapidly increased, and once again I looked up, shuddering as with a fit of the ague. Oh, so it's like you have a chill. Understood. Oh gosh, I was thinking of reading like multiple more short stories. I think maybe I could do the Telltale Heart, but even that would be a lot. Wait, how long is the Pin the Pendulum in comparison to the others? Oh, the Pin the Pendulum was like notably longer. Goodness gracious. Huh. Edgar likes his details. He does. And honestly, like, I can't claim, excuse me. I can't claim to be super knowledgeable on Edgar Allan Poe. I know like The Raven, and I know Telltale Heart. I know what the Pendulum is, but I'd never read it before. Mask of Red Death, I know how it goes, but I've never read it before. So I wanted this like a little bit because like I like Edgar Allan Poe. I want to read more of his stuff. Honestly, like The Cask of Amontillado, I read that like a couple months ago. Like I reread it, and it reminded me of how funny Edgar Allan Poe can be. Because, for instance, like Edgar Allan Poe, in The Cask of Amontillado, it's two guys walking, and like one of them is going to kill the other by getting him drunk, and then like building a wall to like lock him in a room where he'll die. And the guy who's going to get killed is just like, he does a strange hand gesture, and the narrator's like, what's that? And then the other guy is just like, oh, I'm sorry. Obviously you're not a Mason. You don't know our signs. And then the guy just says, well, I'm a Mason, all right, just not that kind of Mason. And then Fortunato is just like, I'm not sure what you mean by that. And then the narrator is like, don't worry about it. I have a hobby. And then proceeds to use masonry to kill Fortunato because, of course. Oh gosh. I think what I'm gonna do. I think I'm gonna wrap up for now, and what I'll probably do is I'll probably just read more Edgar Allan Poe on future streams, because even though it's a very like, oh, it's Halloween, read it for Halloween kind of deal, I can always just read this for other streams, because like no reason not to, you know. So I will put away my book and my tea to just say like, hello. And I can remove you. Oh goodness. This was a big yapping stream. I played a visual novel. I read some poetry and a short story, which was fun. I very well could read like Telltale Heart, but I think my voice is kind of dead. I've been speaking nonstop for like 3.5 hours. So I appreciate you swinging by. I did record the readings. I might upload them on the channel. I might take snippets from them. Yeah, 3.5 hours of yapping, because I'm a yapper, as I'm very comfortable saying. Let me do that real quick. I'm very comfortable yapping. However, even I reading or like yapping for 3.5 hours nonstop with only like half a liter of water to drink is not the kindest on the throat. And while I like to yap, I just hurt my voice the other week, so I don't want to push it too far. So I think I am actually going to wrap it up now. So let me stop recording because I was recording those readings. I don't think I'll upload them. If I am to do like readings on the channel, I'd probably do like a more audiobook than like live reading. But I wanted to do this on my YouTube channel because I haven't streamed here for a while. I thought it would be fun for anyone who filters in to like have the ability to listen to reading. Let me turn on you. Just some music in the background. Your throat would be past the point of gravel if you did, what, 3.5 hours? Well, that's the thing, is that I've grown accustomed to yapping, both in my literal, like actual streams, but also just in my daily life. Because when I started producing content, I started talking to myself when I just like do my daily life. I didn't do this before, but now I will have conversations with myself. I will yap about random topics that I come across purely as to just kind of like keep the brain primed for yapping. So if you're looking to get into yapping, just yap to yourself and ignore all the weird looks people get you. Ugh, goodness gracious. But yes, I had such a fun time making this Halloween outfit, where like the outfit itself is just a pre-made one, but I did some edits to it. Unfortunately, the color, it's currently red, despite the fact that I changed it to yellow. You're practically a mute. Yapping would be difficult. No, that's the thing. I'm someone who, unless I have like stream or something, I'm not going to be chatting too much. I'm pretty quiet. I'm pretty like not inclined to run my mouth a lot. So this has actually been very good for me to speak more, and particularly with like voice training, whatever. Yeah. So it's definitely like the goal is vampire, because I just made a video about vampires last week. So I thought it would be fitting if I was like, hey, what if I dress up like a vampire? I even have the teeth. But yes. I don't know. I might use this model. I might use this model for some other things, like, who knows? But in the meantime, I think I'm going to go rest my voice and probably tune into the streams of some other content creators I am friends with. Because who would have thought that on Halloween night, everyone wants to stream? Well, so what I did is so what I did is it wasn't just the cape. I also changed basically everywhere there's red on this outfit. I went in and manually changed it to yellow. I think there was just a slight issue in the exporting, where I actually made it yellow to kind of like match my eyes and match my overlays. But I figured blood red, that fits fine. And worst case, I can always just give it a quick little fix and maybe wear it for like scary games going forward. Because the nice thing about being a Vroid model is that I can do my own outfits. And something I do love, and I might actually change this for a typical model, is this is actually what my hair looks like in real life. This is what I do when I'm not streaming. I have my hair cover half my face. I have the rest behind me. See, yellow and black is such a good choice. That's what I did for my overlays, is because I like yellow, I like gold, and I think that they go together well. It's a very like classic look that has distinction, because I think a lot of people go for primary colors like red or blue or even green, along with something like black. But a lot of people have either really dark color schemes where it's mostly blacks and like one popping color, which is a little bit what I do, or a lot of people have really pastel and bright color schemes where it's a lot of pinks and yellows and blues. So yellow is often associated more with pastel. So I've found that just in a differentiation perspective, yellow and black goes well together in a just kind of not really put together that often. Well, do tell. You can't just bring that up and then not elaborate. And let me check the model real quick, because I swear I did this. As you write down what character it was, I want to look at the outfit. Edit texture. So what I could do, theoretically, I probably should have done this before, is import images, model work. Maybe it's just that I didn't save it. So let me, because that'd be very on brand for me to just not save it. So as you do that, I am presently save. Saves new item. So it's from a prayer to the fool. The line is King of Yellow and Black from the Lord of Mysteries. You have a whole prayer in your notes. I love if you dropped it, because I love hearing about this kind of stuff. But the thing with the King in Yellow and Black, I imagine that's a derivation off of the King in Yellow, because obviously, like that's a very common, or that is a known like type character from the Lovecraftian mythos. The full line is the King of Yellow and Black who wields good luck. That's pretty awesome. Like, not gonna lie. Let me try something real quick. Oh, let me try exporting this again. Vampire costume 2. Okay, so let us do this. Vampire costume gold. Yeah, see, that would make sense, because if you have a story that's inspired by like Eldritch nature, Lovecraftian mythos, having a character who's the King in Yellow and Black is a nice evolution of that, because a lot of times people just kind of don't go farther than that. They just kind of take the King in Yellow and run with it because it is public domain. It is a known character, so people want to be able to play with that. Also, give me a moment, please. I'm going to test something. Let me hide my model. Be hiding for just a moment. Let's see if this works. Oh, paste. All right. So. Da-na-na-na-na-na. Oh. So as you can see, basically the exact same model, but now it's yellow instead, which I think fits my color scheme better. So the whole prayer in full would be the fool who doesn't belong to this era, the mysterious ruler above the gray fog, the King of Yellow and Black who wields good luck. Like, imagine you are entering a room, and that is how like you have a hype man who enters first and says that about you, and then you walk in. No, you don't understand. I love it when people share their special interests. I don't know if you would be interested, but on my Discord, there's just like, I don't know. I literally have a channel called Cool Stuff because like I want people to share cool stuff. So if people share their hyperfixations, like by all means. Why, thank you. I was worried you were going to say it looks nicer in red because honestly, it doesn't really matter too much to me if it's in red or it's in yellow, but I think it's more tonally consistent if it's in yellow. And it's also like, no, I didn't make this, but I recolored it. I touched it up. I snatched the waist and I made it better fitting. But yeah. I am more than happy to hear about people's hyperfixations, but I am going to hop off now. Yeah. So, your name is not the same on the Discord if you're already on it, but if you're not on the Discord, feel free to just click on my profile and you can find the Discord there in my related links. But in the meantime, I think I am going to head off. Please spread the word of the Fool and just let me know what the deal with that is, because that actually sounds super interesting. And maybe I will read more Poe, and honestly, I would love to like read Lovecraft on stream. I just don't know if that is how, like, I don't know if that's public domain, because I know some of it is, some of it isn't. But like with Lovecraft, it is, most of it was written in like 1910s, 1920s, 1930s, which is a little tight when it comes to public domain. Well, hello, Corey. I didn't even realize you were here lurking this whole time. But yes, I finally have my yellow back. But thank you all very much for swinging by. Yeah, and like, hey, I have a whole backlog of streams that I have not listed yet, but this will be free for watching the VOD on YouTube because I was in a YouTube mood, so I wanted to upload this to YouTube. Happy Halloween, everyone. I hope that you either had a good time, have a good time, or will have a good time. And look out for my content. Monday, Wednesday, Friday is like writing and TTRPG shorts. Tuesday, Thursday is clips. And Sunday is more like mainline videos. Saturday is my stream day. But also, I have been collaborating with some other VTubers and playing Terraria on Tuesdays. So that's been fun. So have fun, enjoy, and happy Halloween all. No, so not the... No, so that's in the description of the stream. That's a joke that I put in. I'll just post it. I get so much enjoyment from doing that. Let me get you your link. That is the link to my Discord. What I did is that in my streams, I have it linked to other people's stuff because I made that before I set up like a Discord server, and I just thought it would be funny, and I never changed it because I still think it's funny. But anyway, thank you all for swinging by. I appreciate your company. And let me know either in the comments here or on my server if this is the sort of thing that interests you, if you want me to do more readings, because I'd love to. It's just fun, even if it is a bit rough on the voice. So happy Halloween, stay safe, and of course, as always, have fun.